How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VGWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, are still
Fenorian.
And Volasel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week that was. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server and talk to the show hosts and other listeners to the show anytime you want. And you can easily get to our server by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the YouTube archive of this show.
Yes.
Alternatively, you can go to vtwproductions.com and click the show logo on any of our show posts if you can find one.
Yes, indeedy. So, on the stream today, we're just going to be playing a waifu game, because of course we are. So,
Yeah.
Genshin Impact.
It came out this week.
It did. And, yeah, okay, it's a gacha game, but it doesn't play like a gacha game.
It's sufficiently feature complete that you, if there was not a gacha in there, you would not notice.
Yeah. It's actually very pretty as well. So,
There seem to be a lot of antis. There seem to be a lot of antis opposed to it. They say, it's just a bootleg version of Breath of the Wild.
No, it's got nothing to do with Breath in the Wild. Shut up.
That's the most common line that I've been seeing, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
I can understand Breath of the Waifu comments because of the art style, but I don't get
that's
just pure vitriolic. It's just Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
I've
that's
really
about where
been
the comparison
enjoying
ends,
the
honestly.
element system, and I don't remember anybody saying anything about that in Breath of the Wild. So,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much one of the back of the box features.
Yeah, and it's all about your elemental interactions, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and you got to learn to use them well if you want to kill stuff in a timely manner at your level,
Yeah,
or you're going to be stuck there a while.
whenever you find a new one, like I have here, it actually tells you, here's the new reaction, here's what it does.
Oh, if you're unfortunate and do
It tells
the
you
trial,
once and you forget.
Until
Yeah,
you forget,
and-
yeah.
and if you're very unfortunate and decide, oh, I guess I'll do these trial quests that have these rewards because they just unlocked for me after I got to the hub town.
I mean, the test out a new character ones.
Yeah, you're gonna get all those pop-ups all in one mission.
Yeah.
What's it saying? No Electro in my current party. Hang on, do I have to switch to him and put him in the front?
And so I had that unfortunate experience, and so it popped up all these wonderful tutorials that tell me how the elements work, all in the same mission.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I gotta level up. All right. So yeah, it's an all right game. But yeah, it does have a gacha to it. So once you get to a certain point in the story, you can basically just waifu away all you like.
I spun the beginner gacha the twice that it's available, and I haven't bothered with it at all since.
Yeah, that's all I did.
I haven't touched it either. I got the Mace Maid, and that's it.
The Mace Maid is really good. I've gotten a humongous amount of mileage out of her.
So
I got her, the 4-star Chuni with the crow, and some ninja boy who I didn't care because he was not a girl.
I mean, this is Kaya. I mean, look at the guy. He's got an eye patch and everything.
Yeah, he's one of the unlockables. So I got the Chuni girl official. I got Xingqiu, the swordsman Shota, and I got Chongyun, the heavy sword Shota, and I got Ningguang, the Onai-san.
Damn it.
I've actually really enjoyed using her as well. She's probably the one I use the most.
All right. Oh, it looks like I got to do. At least when you start off, you get your 3 temples. It teaches you how to use different characters. Like the first one teaches you how to run Amber. The second one, Kaya, and it looks like this one's going to teach me how to use Booby Wizard.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of the exploration requires element use, since those temples go out of their way to show you how you can affect the environment with the different elemental attacks.
Yeah.
You can figure out most of them just by dicking about, but there are certain things that unless they explained it to you, wouldn't know, like the fairies that you can use to boost yourself into the air and stuff.
Yeah. Gather the 3 fireflies to make a whirlwind or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I've hit that point yet.
But I've spent a good amount of time exploiting it, like you know, using the ice dude, what's his name, to create a path out into the ocean so I can reach something miles away and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did that when I was running around just to get all the waypoints so that I could see. There was one stuck in like some mid-20s zone, and I'm like level 11. So I just made a ice path in the water to get way close to it and climbed up the shortest cliff I could see.
Yeah.
I'm fairly impressed with just how much you can climb in the game. Like,
yeah, that was really impressive to me as well. I mean, unless it's a really, really strange shape, if there's a wall there, you can usually latch onto it and climb up it. There's a lot of freedom to move wherever you feel like.
Yeah. So
yeah,
they've done a good job, I think, all told, of making an actual game. Which is a lot more than you can say for most gacha games.
Yeah, there's even like hidden quests in some places. Like if you're in town, you'll touch one if you stand on the railing of the steps at the very top, and you'll have to run on a very thin line as quick as you can between each point that appears without falling off.
Yep. So just fighting slimes with the Booby Mage. Booby Mage is actually kind of fun.
Yeah, she does lightning stuff.
Yeah. She tends to have the broadest attack range of any character I've got so far. Didn't kill him fast enough. So yeah, that's one of the things I've been doing this week, really. It's been another full-on week. Hopefully we'll get a new employee in the next week or so, but I think that's all just held behind governmental bureaucracy, so yay.
Derp.
So I suppose what I can talk about this week is I sat down and I binge-watched the new series of Food Wars now that it actually ended. Which was...
It feels like it ended again. I don't know if that's the actual end or not.
Yeah, like this time it's another conclusive end. They tied up one of the loose plot threads from the previous series. So, okay, it's ended. Definitively ended again. So, I don't know. Are we going to not see any more ridiculous food shenanigans?
I think that it would become even more obvious that they were just spinning it out to spin it out if they tried to do another season. Not that that necessarily means that they won't, just that I think that it would be a bit transparent if they did.
Yeah. I have to have a look and see if the manga actually goes further. Because we kind of got... it tied up a lot of the loose stuff around the Nakari family. So you had, kind of the outcome of what happened to Chef Hitler at the end of... or after the end. All about what happened. Oh, come on. He was totally Chef Hitler. He went into a chef school and instituted Cook Gestapo.
Cook Stapo?
The Cook... Yeah, the Cook Stapo.
No, I think that it was... Since it was more about everybody being equal and conforming to the one way of doing things, I think that he was more like Cook Stalin.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. He didn't have the mustache, though.
Well, he didn't have the Hitler mustache either, and Hitler's mustache is way more distinctive.
That is... Well, I don't know. Stalin kind of made up for quality with quantity. Let's not get stuck into a discussion about impressive mustaches, I guess.
I suppose technically the Hitler mustache was the Charlie Chaplin mustache.
It was. Anywho. So yeah, the series, or the fifth season of Food Wars, I think was unnecessary, but it was still a fun ride. Like, you had Soma's evil sort of brother in the end, who, come on, he was a palette swap Soma in terms of appearance.
I don't know that that's true.
It's pretty true. He had daddy issues of a sort.
Obviously.
He wasn't a particularly good villain. He was just kind of there for a lot of it.
He seemed kind of a bit like a filler arc villain, I guess.
Yeah. And once he was defeated, he just kind of turned around and walked away, and that was everything.
Yeah, it's like he existed in order to facilitate the arc.
Yeah.
Like, we need an antagonist for this arc, and we can't use Nakiri's mother because she's too old. So who can we use?
Yeah.
Like he was written to facilitate the story. If they had like seriously hinted about his existence much earlier on, because I mean they had the hooks to do it.
Yeah, they had plenty of hooks.
Since they went, particularly since they went with the illegitimate child plot line.
Yeah.
Like that meant that it was ripe for them to insert him earlier in the story to make their whole affair more credible, but they didn't.
They didn't. So he just kind of turns up with his evil organization of mobster chefs.
Clowns.
They're
basically carnival rejects.
They are carnival rejects. Like, one of them cooks with a chainsaw, one of them is a straight-up clown. One of them is, let's face it, gay Colonel Sanders.
What?
Yeah, that happens. So, yeah, it's like, none of these characters are really characters. They're just a bunch of stereotypes and tropes kind of thrown into a blender. But, so yeah, you
cook what results from that blender?
Pretty much. So yeah, it was a fun ride, but what it is just kind of extending out the ending of the first year of Food Wars, and it just still, while it did answer a few questions and kind of tie up a couple of plot threads, it still felt very unnecessary.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was. It really didn't. It didn't seem like it was done for any other reason than to make the series longer.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna have a quick look so I'm just gonna let this game pause and just see where the manga actually goes.
If they had just opted for, I mean, it looked like the objective would be to do something there, like they need to resolve the relationship tension between Irina and Soma, but of course it's a shonen, so they're never going to do that.
They're never going to do that. I think it's about
then they sort of do it halfway. They sort of do it halfway at the end, but then they don't address it properly. So
yeah. Let's see. No, it looks... Is that for the anime or is that for the manga? No, it looks like the manga actually stops at that same point. So... Although, it is a Shonen Jump series. Can we see him in Jump Force? Can we put Soma in Jump Force?
He might already be in Jump Force.
No, he's not yet.
To cook at people?
Yeah,
how does Yugi and Kaiba play?
I mean, there is clothing damage in that game as it is. He can give people Food Wars moments.
There's a lot about the way that Yu-Gi-Oh works that I don't really want to look too closely at.
Yeah.
Presumably it involves sending people to the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, we don't kill people in Yu-Gi-Oh.
I did actually, when I played or tried Jump Force, I did try Kaiba, and he's a weird character because he's got this gigantic dead spot right in front of him, which he cannot summon a dragon into because the dragons will inevitably attack behind.
He should just pelt people with money.
He should just pelt people with money. In some characters, that would totally work too.
He could totally summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon jet that he actually has. Because
after the abridged series, I can't look at that jet the same way.
He has money.
Is there any better expression of just having FU money than having a cartoon dragon as a jet?
Yeah. What he did in that jet, we will leave unsaid. Thank you, little Karibo, for disturbing us greatly.
I'm really glad I didn't follow that series.
Yeah, it doesn't take a great leap of imagination to figure out what he did. What is this thing? A floaty thing. There we go. Oh, one of those things. Okay, I remember now. When the animancula... Jeez. Could they have given half of the names in this game any worse pronunciations? I will definitely pan on this game for that. Also for Paimon, because annoying mascot characters are the bane of everyone's existence.
What have you got against Paimon, man? You gotta eat something.
What else did I do this week? Not much. Kept playing with a D&D group. It ended up being a really weird one-shot because most of our group couldn't turn up. So our DM pulled in a few people from another group he runs, and we kind of ended up with this weird arena crossover thing. It was very silly. We ended up fighting a god and very nearly killing a character he put in our way with the intent of wiping the party at the end of the night. So that was fun. And I think he may have actually broke my character. So we'll see. Broken. Like, he gave me, for my pugilist, a set of brass knuckles, which not only gives me siege damage, which I get at level 15 anyway, but also just locks my strength at level 22.
I don't know what siege damage is. Is that a new thing?
Yeah, I think it's newish. It does double damage to inanimate objects.
I see.
So I could potentially punch down walls if I felt like.
He can do damage to structures is the big point.
Yeah.
So it basically takes all the armor class and DR away from a structure when you're hitting it. Mm-hmm. So whereas a building, there is an inherent amount of protection it has because it's a freaking wall.
Yeah.
You can't just punch your way through that. Siege damage negates that completely.
Yeah,
but fire is free.
If there is a door that needs opening, I could either go through the door or go through the wall. I have a choice now. I might actually just... Actually, there is no choice. I go through the wall.
Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! There is no choice here. There's an obvious answer.
Yeah, it's the wall. Doors are for chumps. So, yeah, on a level 6 character, though, level 22 strength is pretty crazy.
So what's your strength? What's your strength number?
With that, I think it gives me +5.
Good gravy. Gave you a single item at level 6 with a +5 stat on it.
Yeah. Now, granted, the way the pugilist class is built, it's pretty much a one-trick pony. Like, I can punch things, or I could.
It doesn't matter if it's a really good trick.
Yeah, it's one really, really good trick, and that's punching things. So, I'm grateful with that, though. It's aside from the druid getting a staff, which I think has fireball on it, a concentrationless fireball. But for her level, it's kind of...
Why would you do this to yourself as a DM?
Oh, like, this druid, he seems to forget half the time that druid spells actually exist in the first place.
What, does he just roar and turn into a bear and try and fight things?
Well, like, there's this monster who is really, really powerful in the darkness, but he seemed to forget that druids can cast daylight.
Did he have the spell? Did he take it that day? You don't do that anymore, do you?
No, you don't. You just have slots. I think wizards are still bound by that restriction to a degree, but yeah, sorcerer, druid, warlock, bard, everything else basically has a lot more leeway as to what spells they can use.
Because that used to be the go-to excuse for if somebody forgot to prepare it, they would just hide their character sheet, or if they forgot something that they prepared, they'd just say, no matter what happened, oh, I just forgot to prepare it today. It was never, I just forgot about the spell.
Yeah. So now you don't have that excuse anymore. Your own stupid decisions are your own. So yeah, still having a lot of fun with that. It's good just to be able to sit down with a bunch of people and talk really complete nonsense, honestly.
Do you have any politics or drama in your group going on?
No, not yet. Not since the sorcerer had his has his spaz out.
Has he quit playing, or are you still playing with you?
He's quit. He's actually in the BDO guild as well, and he quit that too.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Was he like 13? Come on.
He's a grown-up.
You're supposed to grow out of that.
Yeah, without because I don't have all of the details on it, but I think he was actually upset because I wasn't punching down a stone door with arcane runes all over it because he got himself locked in the cupboard for a boss fight. At that point, I didn't have siege damage.
It sounds like a spaz.
Yeah, that was his frequent thing. He's like, I need to open a cupboard. Okay, fireball. Then he gets himself locked in a dead-end hallway for a boss fight, and he triggered the poo room and the fight within. The fight that was never supposed to happen in the poo room.
Is there a poo elemental?
No, but I think with this DM, it's only a matter of time. I think we gave him ideas.
The poo-mental.
The great mighty poo. It has to sing. I'm also
I
fighting.
suppose it depends on whether the DM has played that game or not.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing in Genshin Impact at the moment, by the way. I'm just wandering around and fighting things that are way above my level.
As you do.
As you do. So yeah, it is good fun. I was kind of skeptical about 5th edition going into it, because it does take away a lot of the freedoms that both Pathfinder and 3.5 offer. Nobody plays 4th, by the way. Ever.
Yeah, well, 4th was a load of crap, and that's why everybody went back to 3.5.
Yeah, 4th was awful.
5th was quite well received, though.
Yeah, it is very beginner-friendly. Like, your characters are more or less built from a predefined archetype sheet, but you do get a little bit of customization. And ultimately, D&D is really not about the numbers. It's about the roleplay.
Yeah, well, it depends on your DM.
Depends on the DM.
Some DMs just, send waves of Yetis.
Yeah, this DM is... it gives us a bit of both. So, yeah, I still haven't really had the opportunity to flesh out my character's roleplay too much, but yeah, it's getting there. I think we have established that my character's mustache is in fact immortal, so that's a thing.
Are you playing Alex Lewis Armstrong?
Pretty much. I mean, that guy, he is the greatest.
He definitely is.
Yeah, in terms of appearance, he's kind of on that mold. And in terms of hamminess.
I'm about to say, if you're strange to the roof and you don't look like a beefcake, something's wrong with you.
He doesn't have the bishy sparkle. I'll give you that. There is no bishy sparkle.
He does not have about 16 to 17 charisma.
Pretty sure there's a relatively inexpensive magic ring that can take care of that.
You just get a permanent prestidigitation something marked on me or something.
No, you have to keep wearing the ring, but it could give you the Bishi Sparkle whenever you make a gesture. That's pretty easy and cheap.
Yeah.
I think you need to make that as a sub-goal for your character.
To get the Bishi Sparkle?
Yes.
I'm going to settle with the immortal mustache. My character is not immortal, but his mustache is. But, yeah, we'll go from that. That's pretty much been my week, aside from just driving around, working, because that's all that ever seems to happen.
Yeah.
Because we adult, and I don't want to adult anymore.
Do not want.
Do not want. All right, Vol, your week, sir, please.
My week. Okay, so the end of my week, well, the first part of my week was the end of the Guildfest. So in the end, I could not resist the lore. The crystallized lore. I've decided, no, I have to get the crystallized lore because those are missable items. I can't farm those up from anywhere. So I decided that I would tackle that last challenge quest, and it turned out that it was very, very easy to do by borrowing Kuzilla and basically setting up a solo strat. It was a very finicky sort of solo strat to pull off because the conceit of the fight is basically that Nero Bride is it's one of those ones where you fight a whole pile of servants one after the other, and it was one where Nero Bride is on the field at the start, and you don't want to take her out first because you'll keep gutsing everybody, but the problem with Nero Bride is that she uses her noble phantasm charges to full every time somebody dies. Every time somebody on her team dies, so you need to be ready with all of the taunts. So I got through that anyway, though. So I got the lore. I don't need to worry about missing that now. And I finished off my lotto box farming, and in total, I farmed 86 lotto boxes from that event.
That's a lot of boxes.
It's a lot of boxes, and the part that you don't think about until afterwards is if you farm that many boxes, at some point you've got to claim all of them, which means you've got to spend a lot of time prodding Queen of Sheba's chest, as it were.
Making horsey noises.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
This seems uncomfortable.
Yes. Well, there are lots of fan comics tend to go up around the time of lotto events because the typically female shop owner administering the lottery will usually the button spin once, spin 10 times will be over their chest on the character sprite. So it's basically you poke them in the boob over and over again, and it does in fact take several hours worth of boob poking and mucking about with your inventory and mucking about with your item receipt box and so on to actually claim 86 lotto boxes. So I heard that somebody actually farmed the cap or something.
That's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's many hundreds. But yeah, I don't know how they did that. They must not be employed. They must be a NEET, or it's very popular to also farm using bots, and you're not allowed to. Every time you do that, you're putting your account at risk. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to put my account at risk in order to do that. Because honestly, the reward is not worth the risk of losing your entire account's progress. No, thank you. So yeah, at any rate, that finished, and now we are in the Halloween rerun for probably the most ridiculous Halloween event that they had done to date on the North American server.
That's quite an achievement.
But yes, so I'm progressing that now, although I've spent most of my time since it's come out just claiming lotto boxes.
What day did the Halloween event start?
Oh my god! Sorry, I'm just talking to Timmy on the bridge here, and oh dear.
Oh, the incredibly dark history he has.
Yeah, yes, they won't come back, just like Daddy.
Yeah, his dad went out there.
I was like, wow,
that's wow.
That went to a dark place very quickly.
I was playing with Abo when it came out, and we were on Discord, and he made the similar reaction, and I go, "What?" He goes, "You'll see. You're just behind me. Talk to Timmy on the bridge."
Yeah, that was a thing. My goodness. But
why?
Reasons. But yeah. So after the show last week, I decided to pick up Hades and give it a try, and I was, expectedly quite terrible at it. I made a reasonable amount of progress eventually, but on the first day when I was playing it, I was just basically stuck. I kept going. I kept getting wrecked to varying degrees by Meg at the end of the first floor. But yeah, I put that on ice, went to bed, and when I got up, I whomped her the first time I attempted her.
He just gets some good boons, and she just kind of falls over.
No, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about boons at all. It was just about, the effect of how when you are learning something, you can't just keep going. Your brain
won't
set the learning properly until you sleep.
I see.
It's very well documented.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Science, but yeah, and so I just wrecked her. And then also wrecked the entire next floor, including the Hydra, without stopping.
Yeah, the Hydra ain't too bad to begin with. He's a breather boss. I'm actually fighting him right now.
I got about halfway through the next floor before I ran out of gas, and then after that I managed to make progress as far as Theseus, and I think I stopped there. Because I wasn't really sure what I was doing, to be honest. I wasn't doing any damage.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to matter what I tried. I couldn't seem to get the damage to stick. There were a couple of times it seemed like I was making progress, but in the end it always didn't seem to wash. But
yeah, him and Asterios have high HP pools to begin with, and Theseus himself has the shield mechanic, and that makes him very difficult to keep pumping damage onto unless you know how he works or figure out how he works.
At any rate, after that, I decided to to give that a miss for a bit. And I have given it a miss since, actually, because I hurt my wrist at work and I can't really hold a controller that comfortably anymore. It's getting better, but it's still a little bit stiff. So at that point, I put that on ice and I decided to install Genshin Impact because basically Twitter had been blowing up about it all day. And I was like, all right, I'll stick my hand in the gacha meat grinder again. Because nothing bad could possibly happen, right? it wasn't like terrible or anything last time I was playing multiple gacha games at once.
Well,
Yeah.
one of them
feel like dying.
There's the bonus that this one isn't a phone game, so you can't. Well, it is,
Well,
but
a phone game.
But it's one of those things that doesn't feel like a game you would play on your phone. So
yeah, I can see how you would, but I don't see why you would want to, because I think the experience is just better on a larger screen, playing with better controls. I haven't been using a gamepad for that. I've been using the mouse and keyboard. I did put the gamepad on at one point, but it's basically Steam dicks me around so much, having just plugged the gamepad in, that I eventually got frustrated and turned it off.
Yeah, Steam can be very, very strange when it comes to gamepads.
It would not work. I could not get it to work if I plugged it in. It only worked if I got the Bluetooth, if I connect it with Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of normal.
Yeah.
Where normally I can only get it to work on the cable and the Bluetooth throws a wobbler. This time only the Bluetooth would work and the cable threw a wobbler.
Ugh.
So yeah, not really sure what that was all about. But at any rate, so I've been playing that a little bit, and I've been very much enjoying it. I think it's at the right sort of pace for me, because you make definitive gains just by getting lost and dicking about in the wilderness, which is basically how I play every open world game, because I can't find my way across an open world game with a map.
Yep.
Like, so, but if you get lost, you don't stop progressing, which is fine. So, and you can climb on, as we mentioned earlier, you can climb on everything. Yeah. So once you work out where you do want to go on a compass heading, because I'm okay with compass headings even if I'm bad with landmarks, you can just head in a straight line to wherever you need to go, and eventually you'll climb enough walls to get there.
For no apparent reason, I'm just going to climb this statue and sit on her head. And the game's going to let me do that. Unless I do something stupid. Hang on. Can I get up?
So it opens in a rather overdramatic manner, the story of which appears to fall immediately by the wayside in favor of dicking around in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Obviously, I picked the female character, not least because she's voiced by the delightful Aoyuki in the Japanese voice set, which is the one that I'm using. Which is also the voice actor for Shooting, among other things.
Yeah, she seems to voice everything.
She does. She's got an enormous vocal range, but I think that if she'd voiced every character the way she did Shooting, it would put a very interesting spin on some of them.
By the way, anyone who's actually wondering, I've actually got the male character. Not that you can tell.
Yeah, it's sort of like Castor and Pollux or FGO that way.
Yeah,
that's who they reminded me of initially, because they're two incredibly slender blonde twins.
Yes,
who are technically of opposite sex, but in a bad light you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been having good fun with it. It's a nice, relaxing game to play, and it's one of those ones where you actually do make definitive progress if you just go for a bit of a wander, which is something like I've never been much one for exploration type games, because usually they're designed with the idea that but exploring is your reward for exploring. You're supposed to enjoy that part of it. That's the way they usually construct it, and I'm like, yeah, but for me, I just get lost, so it's not that fun. But in this case, exploring is not your reward for exploring. Rewards are your reward for exploring.
Yeah.
So
that's the design philosophy for a bad exploration game.
Yeah, that's a design philosophy for Dearester. I don't think anybody needs that.
Yeah, no, the real reward for exploration games should be in the finding. So when you actually find something,
you have to be able to find a stuff.
Yeah, you can't just explore for the sake of exploring. There's got to be something to find.
Yeah, there are practically any combination of silly things you do in the wilderness can result in a chest full of goodies.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they give you a very, very generous inventory cap that I'm still approaching because my inventory is just completely clogged with garbage, which I haven't bothered to sit down and process yet.
There is a cap on that. I've just been keeping on picking up stuff and picking up stuff and picking up stuff.
Yeah, there is a cap, but I'm at like, where is it? I'm at 2,321 items out of 30,000 that you're allowed to carry.
Oh yeah, that's a large cap.
Yeah, so it's no biggie. It's no biggie. You just keep collecting flowers and bits of slime and whatever else you run across in the wilderness. All of it's useful for something.
I have noticed that there's a lot of Easter eggs in the way characters are named as well. Like outside the main office here, I've got Athos and Porthos. Where's the third one anyway? So yeah, we've got two of the three musketeers. Out the front, you've got Rosemary, Sage. What is it? Anyway, they're all named after the four herbs for the Simon and Garfunkel song. I got words.
Something about Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know anything about Simon and
They're
Garfunkel.
also named after Bayonetta's guns, if you want to go that way.
Aren't those named after that really ancient medieval folk song?
Yes. Scarborough Fair.
Yeah, it's a medieval song. It's not Simon and Garfunkel.
Well, they did a cover of it.
So has everybody else in the past 500 years.
So anyway, they're just little neat things to find.
Yeah, it's full of stuff like that as well. It's the actual way you're supposed to progress. Presumably, you get led along by the nose by the story eventually if you decide to go that route. But I sort of got a bit distracted and have just been wandering around aimlessly.
Sorry, game gets a 0 out of 10
because you can't pet the dog.
Can't pet the dog.
Oh, so Hades must be your favorite game in the world then.
You can pet the dog.
You can
I
pet the
spent
dog.
a lot of time petting the dog in Hades.
You've got to pet the dog. He's the goodest boy.
He's definitely the goodest boys.
Yes.
But yeah, so I've been having a good time with that. I haven't made much progress in the conventional sense because I keep getting distracted and wandering off into the wilderness to look for stuff, or usually the way back home.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually lost. But there's very, very generous ability to teleport around the place, so you never really get stuck anywhere because you can just leave if you do.
Yeah, you can just teleport somewhere you're familiar with.
There's still plenty of things I see floating around the place that I haven't figured out how to pick up yet because I don't know the route to it or whatever. There's lots of things to work out. I haven't been into any of the dungeons in the formal sense yet, only in the sort of like the dumbed down story version. But yeah, I have got my my whatchamacallit, my adventurer level, which is sort of like the level of your account and the level by which the world will level up when you hit milestones on it. I've got that to about 16, which I think is the minimum for co-op. So yeah, maybe I'll do a dungeon when one of these other guys hits 16 and we can go in and poke at it. I think they're dungeons anyway. They look like dungeons. They have all of the superficial appearance of dungeons to my mind.
How many players is it left out? I'll put it there as a single time.
I think that there's a cap of like 4 in co-op, but I'm not 100%
yeah,
sure.
I think it's small group content at most.
That's okay.
Yeah, so this isn't an MMO. It's a gacha game. It's a single player gacha game that you can bring somebody in to play with. That's basically the way that they've approached it, and I think that that's fine.
That's fine.
I'm fine without shackling myself to another MMO as well as a gacha game. Can you imagine at the same time? That sounds terrible. But yeah, so the gacha is in there. The gacha is definitely in there. But like I said earlier, I rolled on it twice on the beginning gacha to get a bit of junk, and that's pretty much all I've done with it. They do give you a trickle of primo gems, which are funny money, essentially.
I do like their name, Primo Gems. It's just really funny for me for some reason.
It's just not hiding it, really.
Yeah,
Is
so we're not gonna try and trick you into thinking that this is very mystical. This is just, it's funny money.
It's exactly
So,
what you think it is.
Yeah, it does have an in-game store, but the in-game store is mainly about buying in-game currency. You can buy bundles of junk once a week if you're so inclined, but
Or you can
that
just run
doesn't
around in a
really
circle.
seem like the thing to do, really. I expect that most people were going to be using it on the gacha. Eyeballing it, just quickly taking a look at it, the gacha is more generous than FGO, but not by a huge amount. It's nowhere near as generous as Azure Lane. And it does have a bad luck system. Like if you have a bad luck streak, once you hit a certain number without getting any 5-star, they will just make the next roll a 5-star.
Yeah,
They're
which
not,
is
they're not
nice.
going to. And
Yeah.
that I think that might only be in place on limited banners, though, the ones that people really go ham on. I don't know if it's in place on the static ones that are always there. But yeah, so there are a couple of different gacha currencies which roll on different banners. So I'm not 100% appraised of how all that works. But yeah, you also, when you roll on the gacha, you get other resources in addition to your gacha pool, which can be used to trade in for various things that can be used for like ascending characters and that sort of thing if you are so inclined to spend it on that. But yeah, mostly it's about their they've got two kinds of funny money, and I'm not really 100% sure why. I guess it's to hedge you out of being able to spend Primo Gems on things they don't want you to, because the actual things that you buy are Genesis crystals. And I believe the Genesis crystals have a 1-to-1 conversion with Primo Gems, but you can also use Genesis crystals to buy bundles of like junk, like EXP and that sort of thing. Although there's a hard cap on how many of those you can buy each week, so you can't, break the progression curve by doing that. And I think their way of getting people into it is the same one they use in Azure Lane, where you can buy for quote cheap unquote a monthly ticket, which will give you, a bit of funny money and then a few Prima Gems every day for 30 days. So, yeah. I've got, presently, having played a little bit of it, I've got 3,956 Primo Gems, because you get them for all kinds of different things. And it costs you about 1,600 per 10 pull.
Yeah.
So you can earn things at a rate that I feel is roughly similar to what you would see in another gacha game like FGO, as far as earning currency for gacha goes. But you have to split it, of course, across two different types of gacha currency. So there are three banners up at the moment. There's the limited banner for Venti, who I haven't rolled on this banner at all, for the really poor reason that Venti is a dude, therefore I don't need him.
This is appropriate reasoning.
Where do
I
you
can't think
actually...
of it.
Oh yeah, Matt. What else do there?
Wish is a category that will unlock in the menu as you progress.
All right, so I haven't done that.
Very early on.
Yeah, after you get to the capital at some point, it
Yeah.
pops up like right after that.
Yeah, and
Okay,
that one rolls for one type of currency. There's an equipment gacha.
Here it is. Wish.
I'm really not sure how the equipment works quite yet. Like, I don't know what the odds are of you getting 4-star or better gear as a drop. I don't know whether or not you can, or how frequent that's likely to be.
You sure Venti's male?
Like that. So, well, he's male theoretically, because they use male pronouns for him.
There's a non-zero
dude looks
chance.
like a lady. You gotta admit.
Dude looks like a lady.
Yeah.
In the East, there are two genders: female and possibly male.
Male?
male blood elf.
All right. I might as well do a spin on the Venti banner. See what I get.
We'll do it on the beginner banner instead.
Yeah,
Well, I've already done that.
Oh, you already done both of them?
Already done that, so I don't need to do that again.
Well, I haven't spun any of those ones yet.
Buke.
I'm holding off for a character that I think is particularly appealing and
yeah, spear.
isn't an Astolfo.
Great sword.
Something without testicles, in other words.
Yeah.
Another book.
Because
whatever the hell.
Ultimately, all gacha is about waifus.
Ooh.
That's the whole point.
Xiangling. Waifu with a spear and a fire-breathing panda.
Yeah, you get to use her later in the game. You'll get to do a sort of a trial with her the way you would with the other characters you've already met. She's a cook.
I see.
Yeah, and you should.
She's a very eccentric cook.
The trial quests give you a whole bunch of goodies if you do them too.
Oh, it's not a trial quest that you do from the menu. The way with the other ones, it's actually a side quest in the story.
Oh, good grief! Even her talents are all named after cooking. Like her basic talent is crispy outside, tender inside. Oil meets fire, deep fries, slow bake.
She will cook and eat literally anything.
Oh dear.
Yeah, basically you accompany her in a side quest. Where you basically end up helping her out in a cook-off against another chef who believes that cooking should be done in a more orthodox sort of way, as opposed to literally cooking anything that you can fit into a pot.
I might actually use her. She looks like fun.
Yeah, she's quite good. Very good AoE ability for clearing out the space around you on her Q.
Actually, hang on a sec.
But,
oh no, I still got a second spin of the beginner, but I can't afford it at the moment, so I'll come back to that in a bit.
Yeah, so I think she's a 5-star, isn't she?
She is a 4-star, I believe.
No, she's a 4-star. Okay. I can't remember much about the star ratings of any of them because, to be quite frank, I don't actually care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Like I said earlier, you wouldn't know it was a gacha game if they didn't introduce the gacha and try and get you to spin it.
Yep.
Because the game works perfectly fine without ever doing so.
Yeah.
You're supplied with all the tools you need to progress, and the characters are perfectly fine. They're very playable. There's not really, other than collecting the characters because you like them, there's really no reason to go for gacha characters that I can see. I mean, I'm sure in the future they'll, break the power curve or something because every gacha game does sooner or later.
Mm.
But at present, the characters I've got, I'm quite content with, to be honest. I mean, maybe there are some more that I'll want to get in future, but the way things currently are, it seems fine. And it's not like other games where it's quite easy to develop new characters. There's a lot of work has gone into each one. You can tell it's quite obvious. It's not easy. It's not easy as it's slapping together a few animations and some sprites like it would be an FGO. Quite aside from the whole balance concern, you've got a lot of voice work and a lot of complex animations and debugging will need to be done for each character. So, I think it all works quite well. I'm still, the character that I use the least is probably the main character because she's, kind of vanilla.
Kind of boring, yeah.
I'm a little bit perturbed that you are constrained to using the longsword as her weapon. I figured that as a main character you'd be able to change it, but you can't, which I find a little bit frustrating because I think that the longsword is easily the most boring weapon to use. I've been using mainly for general purposes. I've been using Ningguang, who's caster type, and she's geo element, but more defensively focused than the lightning one is, being a geo element. Geo elements typically are, but she's got the ability to basically put up a wall in front of her which blocks all ranged things within a health limit. So that's actually extremely effective for when you've got a lot of those obnoxious situations where there's blatantly a bunch of dudes with crossbows standing way over yonder pelting you while you have to fight the ones in front.
Ugh.
You just put up the wall and ignore them. But yeah, so there's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of exploring to do. The sheer area of the place is very impressive for a free-to-play game.
Mm.
And it's all sculpted quite lovingly. It's not just, endless reams of copy-paste. It's actually put together in a very coherent fashion. There's lots of stuff to do and see. And there's treasure to be found everywhere, which is the best bit, because you don't ever feel like you're wandering in an area that is pointless.
I can see a treasure chest over on the horizon over there.
Your typical scenario is that there'll be you'll see a bunch of dudes and you'll kill them and it will give you a treasure chest for having done so. That's like a typical scenario you might encounter. Yeah. And those seem to respawn over time as well. So you can, wander around and do them. And each time you crack one of those chests, you're going to get like 2 Primogems as well. So if you just wander around, eventually you can just farm up a spin of the gacha.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculously prohibitive. Like I said, a 10 pull is about 1,600, so you're going to have to spend a lot of time farming. But the fact that you are getting that trickle of reward helps a lot with your motivation to keep going.
All right, let's give this character a try. Oh, yeah.
So, I'm not quite sure that I've got anything much else to talk about other than that. I mean, I'll probably be playing this game for a little while at least, because it's fun and it's easy in the sense that it's not demanding 125% of my full attention the way playing Hades does, and it's less likely to cause me to injure myself further than Hades. So,
yeah, it's
I'll probably
a
be
good
playing
game
for a while.
to sit down and turn your brain off on.
Yeah, and the combat is quite engaging, such as it is. I mean, it's not terribly complicated. It's not going to win any prizes for grand spectacle or intricate combos or anything like that. It ain't no Devil May Cry, but it's perfectly serviceable for what it's trying to do. Yeah. And I enjoy doing it.
I did their little survey, and they asked, of the games, these listed games, which do you prefer to get the free gems? And I just only voted for Devil May Cry in the list. Like, please make it more like this. This has my vote.
I don't think that they've got the development chops to quite manage that one.
Yeah.
They're MiHoYo are probably most famous for Honkai Impact and Honkai Third, neither of which I've played, both of which are gacha games that are extremely popular. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the main gacha game streamers stream those ones. They're action based as well, so they've got a certain amount of pedigree in doing action game gacha. So they're not wandering around without a map. They've got some experience in this particular rodeo. So it would be nice to see more and more interesting things developed in terms of ways you can have characters engage with combat. But if they do that, then much like with FGO, I hope that they will revisit older characters and give them a bit of a facelift, because otherwise you get that sort of inevitable progression where other characters fall out of favor simply because they aren't as functionally interesting, they aren't competitive, that type of thing. But what is in here is quite fun, and I've enjoyed playing it, so I don't really have any complaints. It's a very serviceable way to spend my time without asking anything unreasonable of me as a player.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've got much else to talk about. I haven't started looking into this season's new anime, and I slightly dread it. So
there's nothing good. It just looks all bad. And admittedly, as has been the case, I think maybe it's just because there's so little to offer on the seasonal list this time around. Mal is just putting porn in there now.
Yeah. Incidentally, one thing I've noticed about this game, about Genshin Impact, is that arrows seem to have a functionally infinite range. Fire an arrow in a high arc into the sky and just watch it, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, you can hit the ducks in the pond for like eons away.
I'm not talking like as far away as you can see. I'm talking you could literally hit the other side of the map. Like, just fire an arrow in a high arc into the air and watch it go. The draw distance won't make it disappear. It doesn't fade into the distance. It will keep going. It will keep going as far as the trajectory should dictate. It's quite incredible. Normally, they put a cap on these kind of things, but no. The arrow will go as far as it needs to.
What on earth am I supposed to be doing?
Hard to say.
Am I just supposed to be wandering around and doing stuff?
I don't know.
I don't
Yes.
It's usually a good bet, especially early on.
know. Hang on. Adventure Handbook. I think it's in there. Playing all this bunch of stuff
But
anyway.
yeah, I think the most interesting thing about it in terms of gameplay systems is probably the element system. Pretty much every pair of elements you can conceive of has some interaction or other, will precipitate some kind of effect.
Most
in terms of
easily,
combat world.
yeah. Like the most easily and noticeable one right away, I think, is anything with water. If anything gets wet, it's got like 800 interactions immediately.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that everything becomes wet if it starts to rain.
Yeah. Including
If you're
you,
out
admittedly.
fighting outdoors, everybody is wet. So you're going to be vulnerable to all of the annoying crap that happens if you are wet and you're fighting something that uses lightning.
Yeah. That's not going to be fun.
But there are a huge amount of combinations, although some of them are simpler than others. Like the simplest one is Geo. Usually if you use Geo on something, for the most part, what it will do is it will drop a crystal and that will create an elementally aligned shield around you, absorption shield around you, which is aligned to the element of the thing that you interacted your Geo with. And if you take damage, it's got a certain amount of hit points, but you take 50% damage to that shield from elements that are aligned with the one that you've got. So it's very, very good to use strategically to prolong your durability in combat. And the other simple one is the what is the name of the air element in this game? It's got a weird name.
It does have a weird name. I can't even think of it.
I don't know. I don't have the game open right now.
Or something. It's got a really, really strange name.
Is there a way to... Events?
At any rate, hits from air element, what they tend to do is they will adopt, in the process of using them, they will adopt that element and then they'll just flail it around. So if you use the air element on something that has the pyro effect on it, the fire element, then it will attach the fire to itself, and in synchrony with each of its hits from then on, it will deal fire damage along with it, and will also fling fire all over the area, which is not a great idea to use at close range if you're standing in a flammable field of grass, because you're just going to create a big fire field underneath you.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, it's not great.
Well, you might want that,
Squirrel.
but you usually don't want that.
You usually don't want that. There are a lot of drawbacks to having that happen.
But squirrel.
But yeah, so there's lots of interesting interactions to play around with. Lots of cool things to do. The heck is that thing? It is a big fat guy with the whatever the ice equivalent of a flamethrower is, I guess.
An ice
gun,
thrower,
I guess.
Yeah, something like that. And he's just hosing the area down with ice. This is inconvenient, and I would like him to stop.
Sounds rather impolite. Okay, what the hell? That's a thing. So I just used that fire-breathing panda thing and just... I don't know what the hell it was doing. It did set everything on fire.
It will follow things around. It's very good for taking out groups of little mooks. Extremely good. Especially in the rain, where they're all going to take damage from evaporating the water element as well.
Yeah, steam damage is a thing. Oh yeah. I mean, as far as gacha games go, this is pretty high end.
Yeah, like I think that I think I can't remember if it was a tweet or something from Gabe from Penny Arcade saying that he thinks that the developers forgot. He thinks that the publishers of Genshin Impact forgot to tell the developers that it was a free-to-play gacha game, and it's the first time he's played a gacha game where he feels like he owes them money.
Yeah, because it's an actual game rather than just a collection of JPEGs.
Yeah, and a very competently made one at that. Like, it's not complicated, but it is very competent.
What's this? I found someone's treasure, I guess. Or someone else found it first.
Treasure.
Treasure! Slimes.
I just fought a couple of guys, but they don't appear to have had a chest, but they did have some ascension mats, so I'll take what I can get. Yeah, so I guess tonight I'll have a poke around and see if there's any new anime this season that are going to be worth watching, but I don't have high hopes for this season.
You can watch
anime seems to be in a deep and dire lull right now.
Yeah, you can watch the new adventures of Depressingly Bland Man and Miss String Boobs. If you can remember that one.
Honestly, right. Yeah, I actually kind of like that
I got so bored with it.
It is very, very paint by numbers. The last season was quite interesting though, because it was basically their ascension out of poverty and their encountering basically the way things work politically with all of the other gods who haven't just been grotting around in the gutter.
Yeah.
But yeah,
is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? I don't know. I've watched the first season or most of the first season, and I was just bored.
The first season is definitely not very interesting.
Yeah,
because it's basically a way of justifying the existence of the character for future purposes.
Yeah, it's an isekai, but no one gets isekai'd as well.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to describe it, I suppose, because it has all of the same traits.
Yeah, it is an isekai in everything but actual isekai-ness.
Well, I mean, it takes a place in another world. I mean,
I guess, but I mean, technically, a lot of other things do as well.
Moved there. That's the thing. Or I mean, we might find out later down the line that there are characters who've been isekai. I mean, who knows?
Who knows? They'll run into someone who met Truck-kun.
Truck-kun.
The most efficient way to go to another world, apparently.
It's a friend to Hikikomori everywhere. What would we do without Truck-kun?
Probably live longer.
Well, they keep living, just not on the same planet they were.
Well, they don't always live. Sometimes they die and get reincarnated. Depends on the way the story works.
Depends on what the story demands, really.
Truck-kun usually results in a death as a method of traversing worlds.
So, yeah, or in one occasion, becoming a zombie idol.
Yeah.
That was a thing that happened.
That also happened.
We're getting off in the weeds, though, and we should take a break.
We probably should and figure out where on Earth we're going.
Yeah. By and large, I'm done anyway.
Okay. So here's some music, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Yes.
And Fern is eating donuts, but he didn't bring enough for the whole class.
I only have one very small donut.
Did you send a big angry gruff to go get it?
Unfortunately, no. I should do that.
Well, I guess he wasn't very angry. He was fairly amicable.
He's actually quite an amicable fella.
When he went to go get the donut.
And that tangents nicely into your week.
All right. Paul said he was done, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done.
Which I can actually talk about as well. So let's do this thing.
All right. We got a lot of media to cover in my week, so I'll do the stuff me and Fern can talk about together first.
Before we do that, I'm just going to put up a big warning sign here. We're going to try to avoid it, but there might be spoilers.
The big parts we don't need to spoil anything for to talk about because it's about structural stuff rather than what actually happens.
Yeah.
So
just in case something slips out.
So, yeah. We finally got the other half of Peace Talks, known as Battleground, this week for the Dresden Files.
Mm-hmm.
I had it downloaded. Basically, I went to sleep right after work that day and set an alarm for an hour before the book came out. At 3 o'clock in the morning.
I really want to know what happened next.
Yeah, because Peace Talks left a really, really bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, it was definitely an incomplete story. And it felt padded, admittedly.
We'll get into that, but yeah. So I listened to the book basically in one shot, and it's a 14-hour-ish audiobook at 1.1 times speed, which is what I listen to all audiobooks at.
Okay.
So that was aside from when I had to go back into work, I listened to it straight. And as soon as I got back home, I put it back in. And just because Hades is a game where I don't have to pay attention at all at this point. So I just played through that and completed the game 100% while I was doing it. Because that game's become muscle memory after about 30, 40 runs.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It goes a long way to making Peace Talks more palatable. And that Peace Talks is a very bad book.
On its own,
by
yes.
Itself. By itself, it's downright awful. And but it still doesn't go all the way to fixing it. It's very clear stuff was shuffled around in editing between the two books to make it flow better. And Peace Talks got a whole lot of the stuff that was downtime in later books, I think. And scenes were rewritten to accommodate that. There are a couple editing gaffes where Chekhov's guns are literally not fired, despite being made a big deal.
Yeah.
That just seem like during the rewrite process, they just got forgotten about.
Yeah.
There's a couple of those. And I didn't notice them while I was reading it, but on thinking about it again, I remembered them.
Yeah, I think I probably will pick up a lot more of those once on a second read through.
Yeah. So, yeah. And don't go anywhere near the Reddit. Don't go anywhere near any Dresden Files fan site while this comes out, because, as Butcher promised, a bunch of named characters do die, and you don't want to know which ones those are.
Yeah, speaking of Chekhov's guns, there's a lot of them that... What's that?
Snape killed Dumbledore.
Oh yeah, it's bad. There is a F character subreddit for one of them that did the killing.
Oh yeah,
and that was created.
Said character deserves everything that's thrown at him.
Yeah, he does. But yeah, we got the there's a very weird aside, because I get the feeling Butcher promised a certain character would appear very early as a brief antagonist in this book, and he, because of the rewrite, could not make as much use of him as he wanted. So there's I think it's chapter 9 or something. We finally get the appearance of one character that Butcher has promised is going to show up as a villain, and that he totally exists in the universe. He shows up, 2 named characters die in this chapter, and then he just buggers off to go continue with his plan for another book.
Yeah, it's okay, he got what he wanted and he's gone. That was a very... I'm not even sure if that... Okay, yeah, it doesn't really serve anything in the greater story for Battlegrounds. This is setting something up for later on down the line.
Yeah, and I get the feeling he was more organically written into the story when this was one book.
Yeah.
And Butcher made this promise like in 2016 or something, when the book was still coming out, as one book.
Yep.
And then in the rewrite process, he's like, well, I promised the fans. So he just kept it in when this really would be better served in the next book.
Yeah. Like, as far as Battlegrounds as a whole goes, it does read a lot better than Peace Talks.
Well, I actually think I disagree with that.
Really?
Because Peace Talks, while it's slow, it's an easy to just kind of keep it going in the background, and the stuff is always happening, although it's not anything major.
Yep.
Battleground is breakneck the whole time. Everything's important, and it does not stop.
Okay,
And
yeah, I'll agree with that. But
there are battles every 2 or 3 chapters.
Yeah, no, that's I agree with, but that's not what I'm actually meaning. Peace Talks felt like it was a jigsaw that was kind of taken apart and then put back together in a different order.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I think that goes for both books when you stick them together.
When you describe it, it sounds like the story should have been written with alternating chapters from the first book and then the second book.
To a degree, yes.
It really should have been.
Yeah.
There's a certain confrontation where some characters have some nice stern talking to each other that are important to Harry and Harry himself. And it feels like this was very much so supposed to go in this book.
Yeah.
As a bit of downtime between the fights. Because it's just battle after battle after battle in Battleground. And I get that it's all one giant mini-war taking place over the course of an evening. But we needed some breather room at some points.
It did. Because it gets a bit full on. Like, Battlegrounds, once it gets really going, it does still feel fairly cohesive. Whereas Peace Talks is just kind of all over the place.
Peace Talks is all over the place in that all the slow parts got stuck in that one.
Yeah, so all the slow parts ended up in Peace Talks. All the action, or almost all of the action, ended up in Battlegrounds. When you definitely get the impression that there was a bit more evenly spread.
Yeah, some of the slow parts were clearly supposed to be in the Battlegrounds part, but for the sake of making Peace Talks longer, it feels like they were transplanted.
Yeah, and
to make Peace Talks its own book.
Peace Talks does have a little bit of padding in it, it feels like, as well.
Yeah, well, most of it pays off later, or is explained, or sets up the big apocalyptic trilogy, which is a whole lot of stuff like that's going on in this book. We're finally getting into that arc, and he's setting it up.
As an aside, does Butcher know how many books there are in the series?
He said there was going to be 20-ish main series books, and then he'll cap it off with a big apocalyptic trilogy.
Yeah, but that was a few years ago he said that.
How many of them are going to be splintered into 2 books or more?
That remains to be seen.
Probably only this one, because I did a whole lot of digging about what the heck happened after I finished Battlegrounds. And it turns out the answer to a lot of our questions of why Butcher wasn't doing his job is alimony.
Oh, joy.
His wife went total chimpanzee crazy, apparently, and left him, or he left her. They parted, and the details are sealed and haven't been leaked.
It just sounds like it got really, really messy.
But anything Butcher ripped before, 50% of the profits have to go to her. If the IP existed beforehand for at least 5 years, that's how it was. So that's why this book was delayed so long and got so big, is he just kept writing it and rewriting parts of it to make it a thing.
That's clever.
And he admitted that he released it as 2 books because he didn't have any money when his wife left him, because she took half of his junk and he had to rebuy it with the funds he had saved up. And he needed to pay the people in his that work for the Dresden Files.
Family.jpg.
Yeah.
So that is the story, it turns out. And despite his recent hair color change, Butcher's actually pretty based, I found out.
He is.
He's not...
He got put into a woke panel one time, and he admitted himself it was like sitting in a panel made up of aliens, or something like that.
Yeah, his answer to
he had no idea why he was there.
This question about female characters, he was being praised for Murphy and how she's a strong feminist icon. He's like, I just write cool characters.
Yeah, like it's how you write a strong female character. Whenever a woke person writes a strong female character, they'll focus on female and forget about the character, and usually the strong.
And usually by proxy make them generic male with no testicles.
Yeah. Whereas when you're actually supposed to be writing a strong female character, you want strong character who is female.
Yeah, but Butcher did not give a crap for that answer. For that question.
For that question.
Well,
he just said, I just wrote a character I wanted to read.
And yeah, he turns out he was a devout Catholic growing up and still carries a bunch of that with him, even though he doesn't attend churches frequently anymore. Or his parents were anyway. So yeah, way more based than I thought.
I'm pretty sure he became an evangelical in adulthood.
Yeah, so something like that. So Butcher's, despite his hair color change, because that worried me that was the problem with everything.
What, did he dye his hair blue?
Yes.
Really?
Really.
I was being sarcastic. You can take that back now.
No, it was really worrying. That's when he did that. I'm like, oh no, did he get infected?
No,
it was just a conventional midlife crisis.
Yeah, that's what this one sounds like.
Yeah.
There's Gray, overcorrect.
So yeah, alimony he let slip, and then he skirts around answering that afterwards after he let it slip once, and then his dog died and he had to move house, and his house got held up, so he was stuck in an apartment for months and had to pay any profits he made as alimony. Just left him with no will to actually do the thing.
I do like the idea of the lawyer kind of telling another blood-sucking lawyer, goes, no, we can't give any proceeds from the book. It's not finished yet.
It's not out
5 long years.
Yeah, so he just held it until the end of that alimony happened. So that explains why Battlegrounds and Peace Talks are the way they are, and I think it's just a bump in the road.
Yeah.
Because when I did the digging, it seems very much so like Butcher will be back on his game for future books. So...
Well, he would have made out like a bandit on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he went all out with it. He released full movie trailers for both books.
And aren't they hype?
They're hype. They're done by B-list actors. Not even B-list, like C-list actors that I think I've seen somewhere before, but could not tell you a name of any of them.
They had a bit part on a TV show once.
Yeah.
But he's for a book, that's a big deal. And yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about Battlegrounds as a whole, but I think the obvious parts that have got people up in an emotional tizzy right now, I'm okay with.
Because Michael swears.
Yeah, the most open secret of this book that has been spoiled for everybody is Michael swears.
Yeah.
And he swears like a sailor.
The poster child for lawful good paladins swears.
Yeah. I won't spoil Harry's reaction or what Michael says after he does it, because it's totally in character for both of them, and the readers are nodding along with Harry the whole time.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, that's my reaction.
But it is a very appropriate scene because I think it's because of when it happens more and what event just finishes right before he does it.
Yeah,
like
it is completely justified for Michael to completely lose his cool like that.
Yeah, so it makes sense. The characters that died, I understand why each one was died, and it was properly set up, and they had completed their character arcs, or mostly completed them. I think. I don't think anybody that was named that died had anywhere really left they could go with their character.
Yeah.
Like they could have done something, but it would have taken work that has not been done yet, and Butcher's already drowning in those that he needs to finish up.
Yeah, to add more plot threads.
So deleting a few characters that could have built into side plots before he gets tempted to write more books so he can actually finish this dang series was probably a good idea.
Though he has set up a potential spin-off series with one, admittedly.
Yeah, I don't imagine that'll come out as anything but a few short
probably
stories.
Won't.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I can safely recommend Peace Talks as long as you follow it with Battleground now. As long as you accept that this isn't going to be the best Wombo combo addressed in books, because if you treat it as one book, but it's going to be certainly more palatable than Peace Talks was.
Oh, yeah. And it is actually good because between the two books, it is a who's who of everyone who's appeared in Dresden Files so far.
Yep. And be sure you read Briefcases if you haven't read it yet.
Yeah, you'll need Briefcases because this is a minor spoiler. The first maybe third of Battlegrounds, Harry's partner is River Shoulders, Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well, you could have got that from the Bigfoot book that came earlier. I actually skipped those chapters in Briefcases and kind of wish I had re-listened to them when I got Briefcases later because I read the Bigfoot book years before.
Yeah, I read that again fairly recently. River Shoulders is one of the coolest characters. He's so chill about everything.
Yeah, the reveals about him that bring him more in line with everybody else make him much cooler because he was just kind of a random Bigfoot before, but to figure out he's not just a random Bigfoot, but somebody that has ties to a bunch of other people in the supernatural world.
Yeah,
makes him way more interesting.
You get to see characters who throw down who you haven't seen throw down either in a long time or at all.
Yeah.
Listens to Wind seems to have developed a signature move.
Yeah, ever since Shag Nasty, the grizzly butt drop.
Yeah, he just goes full on drop bear.
Yeah, he flies up in the air as a bird and turns into a grizzly bear and just falls on people.
Yeah, that just seems to become his signature move because he does it like 3 times.
I always imagine the World of Warcraft bear sitting when he does it.
Yes.
Because he's done it, like, I think in a short story in the comic, I think he did it with Shag Nasty.
I think he did it with Shag Nasty.
And he does it once or twice in this book.
Yeah, it's kind of his trademark move at this point.
So, yeah, Listens is cool. Any other characters that get major good moments, I think.
Yeah, Listen to Win, not Listen. Those are 2 separate characters.
Yeah, Listen is a side character that you also need Briefcases for, because that book is practically mandatory reading at this point.
Yeah, it sets up a lot about kind of Molly's arc. It sets up a lot about the Fomor. It sets up, River Shoulders and all his deal.
You're not going to have a clue who the one character with a name that dies in Peace Talks itself is unless you read Briefcases. Yeah, a whole lot of characters and their relationships with stuff. To have a clue with what the heck is up with Ramirez, you gotta read Briefcases.
Yeah, because otherwise he just shows up horribly crippled.
Yeah, I actually read that when that short story when it was a free PDF right after it came out.
Yeah,
but they read it in the audiobook, and the girl that does it does I think it's the girl that does the Kate Daniels series. I can't remember.
I think so. I'll have to look.
But she's pretty good.
She does a really good job of narrating for Molly.
Yeah, Butcher has corrected his voice. Not Butcher. Marster's corrected his voices in Peace Talks. If you listen to the audiobook, he forgot some of the voices. It's been so long.
Yeah. Mab in particular is, I think, the most jarring one.
He apparently received fan mail that corrected him, and he has fixed himself.
I was worried, actually, because I knew he'd forgotten a few voices going into in Peace Talks. Because has he forgotten Bob?
No, he didn't forget Bob.
He didn't forget Bob.
But he really screwed up. Marcone and Mab, I think, were the worst screw-ups.
Mab particularly was the biggest one, yeah.
Yeah, but he fixed that in Battlegrounds, so we're back on normal character reading. And Marsters is such a fan of the series. He does this out of love and basically charges nothing for what his normal paycheck is.
It's why he went back and did Ghost Story again.
Yeah, and so I think we'll be okay now that he's corrected himself. But yeah, a lot of stuff happens. It's a really fast book. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of reservations with it when it comes to calling it good for Dresden Files standards. I don't think it's as good as Ghost Story. I don't think it's as good as Deadbeat. I don't think it's as good as White Knight, but it's still a really good book. It's
been a while, so and yeah, the story is dragged out a bit. Villain. Oh, geez, the villain.
The villain's the weakest part, I think.
I think the villain is the weakest part.
Yeah, just is more of a plot device than a villain. She has very little characterization and no build-up beforehand. she is not directly tied to any group that we've seen on screen for very long, other than a little bit in short stories and implied in the background. I just think that in general, as a villain, she's really, really weakly written, and she's easily the part that makes the book hardest to follow.
Yeah, like she's just a kind of a stereotypical here's the bad guy.
Yeah. So
there are a few Chekhov's guns that have been kind of lined up for a long time that do go off.
Well, there's one plot thread that's been hanging since Small Favor that we finally figured out what the heck happened to. And it does something to a character that radically changes their role in the story. And at first I really didn't like it.
Because you didn't see it coming. I saw it coming.
No, I didn't. I didn't see it coming. It fundamentally changes what the character is.
Yep.
And I just didn't like that because I liked their original character way better.
Fair enough.
But the more I thought about it, it puts them into a different but still equally important role in the story.
Yep.
As a foil towards Harry.
Yep.
Which he desperately, I think, needed from somebody.
Okay. We're talking different characters here, actually, because there's a different character. There's two characters that actually do that. Yeah.
So we'll figure all that out in later books, I'm sure. But yeah, we might talk more spoilery once Fall gets around to ordering and reading the books.
Yeah.
But definitely read them back to back. Treat it as one big book.
It is definitely one big story.
Because Peace Talks will just tick you off if you do not read Battleground after.
Yeah.
Everybody was left upset. The Reddit is full of the most white knights you can imagine for the Dresden Files. It was upset with Peace Talks because of how incomplete it is without Battleground.
Yeah. So hopefully we don't need to wait nearly as long to get the next part in the story.
Yeah, I imagine at most we'll have to wait 2 years while he gets back in his groove. He may release the Cinder Spires in the meantime. That's a IP he's writing.
I did forget that Cinder Spires actually exists. It's a world with weird talking cats. So
it's steampunk and all kinds of weird stuff. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, everyone lives in these actual Cinder Spires.
So yeah,
with weird talking cats.
So yeah, he said he wants to work on that. So I don't know if he said that he's definitely going to, but the series will definitely be moving forward, which is good.
Yeah.
So
it was okay, the first book. I have to go read it again, I think, if he continues it.
Yeah, I didn't read that one. I did read Furies of the Cauldron that I talked about a year ago-ish now, and that was not great, but it had a lot of good one-liners in it. calling the mount Steak and New Boots.
Yes.
Because it looks like a cow was pretty good.
I do remember that now. I actually kind of forgotten everything except for Steak and New Boots.
Yeah, that's all I can really recall from memory, and it's only been like a year and some change.
Yeah.
That was a good gag.
It was a really
good gag. But yeah. And I think that's it for Dresden that I want to talk about, because a lot of people are probably seeing people chimping out if they're seeing anything at all, because they're going too close to the places that have the risk of spoiling, but not quite going into them. And I think you'll be okay with it. As long as you keep everything in mind that happened while the book was getting written, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. I think you'll be
okay. Let's see. Other things, because I got a lot of media to run through this week. I'll briefly touch on what I've done in Hades, and then I'll talk about PSO2, and I think we'll just do those two, because we don't want to be talking forever about my week.
Yes.
Let's see. Hades, I completed the game, because the game becomes muscle memory very quickly, and has nothing you need to read after a certain point. And I hit that point right before Battleground came out. So I completed the game. Credits rolled, credit song played. It is beaten, except for the very last bonus boss that I've been slowly grinding my way up to.
Mm-hmm.
Because while I could take them on now if I really wanted to, I would miss a whole lot of progression rewards on the way by just skipping to that heat level. And you do not get you
don't get retroactively if you pass something by.
You'll get if you go from like heat level 8 to heat level, I think to do this is 1, 3, 6, 11. So at heat level 11 to do this is what do I need to get to? if you're on heat level 8, you'll get the heat level 8 rewards, but it won't count towards it. And you'll have gone through a whole lot of trouble with the heat level jacked up that high without getting the rewards in between. So it just doesn't feel right more than anything. And you apparently don't get the in-game trophy for it, not the Chivo on Steam, but the in-game trophy that shows up in the hub is bugged if you don't beat it with rewards available for that heat level. So that was the reason that I decided to chew my way through with at least one weapon, and I'm using the spear for that because it's my favorite generic weapon to use. That or the second form of the fists. And in general, I can use any weapon. All of my weapons are at heat level 7, I think, because I can do a run in like 20 minutes now and clear the whole game pretty consistently. Sometimes if the boons just don't line up right, or a room is just full of really bad enemies, like a whole bunch of shield dudes in freaking Elysium, then things can get a little hairy and take longer. But in general, I can bust through it pretty quick now with no matter what the boon lineup is, as long as I'm careful to not stick a boon that does not work with that weapon in the wrong slot. Like, you do not want anything on your primary attack, whether that's going to be special or attack, that does not have a % damage modifier on it. Otherwise, you're just not going to be hitting hard enough to do anything. But as soon as you figure that out, so anything that's like Demeter, Artemis, Athena, or what's the other one that gives you percentage? Anything that doesn't apply some wonky effect that gives you a % damage boost as compensation is good to stick on whatever button you're going to be using primarily through the whole run. So, yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it. I'll beat the bonus boss and get the last 2 achievements on the way there. I've got all the other achievements. They did not take that long to do. I've maxed out every character's hearts meter. I social linked with everybody. Upgraded everything except for the weapons. Still need to get more Titan's Blood for that because it takes a whole lot of Titan's Blood. And have 1 companion left to get a little bit, like 3 more Ambrosia for before it'll be done being maxed out. And once I do that, I can just convert any extra Ambrosia I get at that point into Titan's Blood, so that the weapons will go really, really fast. So yeah, did that. And then PS02 had Episode 5 come out. Episode 5 came with a few things. First is the hero class. And what this means is you walk into a quest and you and everybody else is playing hero, except for Abo, who's playing, I think, Force right now. And what you see is the hero class is very easy to play, but there's a very, very obvious distinction that anybody will notice between people that are good at hero and people that are not. Like the Ranger, weapon switching is not optional with hero. In fact, hero's even worse about it. You don't just not have the tools. Your bar will just stop building if you don't switch weapons with the hero. You just won't build up to your super move anymore.
Oh, that's inconvenient.
So everything about the hero is doing a lot of damage in AoE, but fairly and pretty decent, but not awful, but not super good or super awful single target damage. While you build up a super meter to put out this one big heckin' attack after a few seconds, and doing your best not to take damage and to do counter attacks for bonus damage and to keep a damage boost on yourself by dodging at the last possible second. So you need to learn to dodge through things if you don't do that already, which is already how I played the game, so it wasn't that hard of a switch. Any hero you see that is just shooting with twin machine guns or just attacking things with the sword and does not have Ilzande on their bar and is actively switching between weapons is doing it wrong and is doing basically no damage single target, I guarantee it. So, because after you can use each ability of a weapon a certain number of times before it just stops contributing towards building your super meter, with every subsequent usage having diminishing returns on how much it builds up the super meter. So you have to switch weapons.
Basically mean that that emergency quests are going to be a total clown fiesta for a while.
They are, but if you can actually have a few heroes that build up their super move, that thing hits so dang hard if people know how to use it that it doesn't matter. For older content, they absolutely obliterate it. There is a functional ultimate quest that is repeatable as a normal ass quest called the Buster Quest now that you unlock by doing story. By the way, everything in this episode that was released as a system mechanic requires you to do the story now. We're on Japanese release type time now, so not in terms of how quickly the content comes out, but in terms of how you unlock stuff. Buster quests do not unlock until you find them in the story. They're just not available. They might be available automatically later. I don't know, but right now you have to do some of episode 5. Now, episode 5 is really easy so far. We don't have the whole episode yet. We have the first 3 chapters, and I think there's 6 in total. So yeah, it's about 12 hours of content for the story that got released with the start of episode 5. And Buster quests are, you start with 4 towers that you have to defend from waves after about a minute and a half. And then 2 rams spawn that'll run into a castle wall that's in front of you. You have to protect the battering rams until they go race off and destroy the wall. And if both sections of the wall are hit with them, they're destroyed. If only one's destroyed, you have to do another defense wave, and then 1 ram will spawn again, and you have to protect it that time. And then hope it busts through the wall, and you can keep it safe. And in general, that's easier because people don't have to run all over the place to protect both of them. So as long as one gets through the first time, you're fine. And then you have to go beat up a giant castle mech. That is a literal castle, medieval castle, and also a mech. And then you're kicked out of the fight after you break his core, and you have to defend one more time and realize that nobody knows that you're supposed to destroy the towers that are shooting giant laser beams at yours before the laser beams touch them, or the tower's just dead and that you're the only guy up there doing it. And you really need somebody else to get on the other one because they always spawn in pairs, and then you lose immediately and have to restart. But if you can get past that point, then you defend your towers, and the gate opens up, and you have to split the party in 2 to each clear half of the castle walls. And when both sides are clear, the gate, the little fence on top of the castle gate drops, and you can go fight the castle mech on top of the castle walls. And you have to blow both of his hands off and then run up and attack his head. And then after you beat his head, you win. And this is a repeatable normal quest, but it might as well be an urgent quest for the rewards and EXP it gives you. So everybody's doing these. And unfortunately for most people, you have to rank up in this quest to get the quest to give the highest level rewards. And there are three ranks. You have rank 1, rank 2, and rank 3. Rank 1 is baby tier, and you can practically solo it. Rank 2, few mechanics, but you need a couple people that know what they're doing. You could probably do it with 4 people because tower health scales with the number of players. And then you have rank 3, which is where everybody's at. If you're at rank 2, apparently it's already dead, and nobody stuck around at rank 2 long enough because it only takes like 1 or 2 wins to get out of that rank. So there's nobody to queue with. So yeah, that's what everybody's doing in PSO2. The story, you go into a black hole trying to find a way to stop the Profound Darkness loop. It's stuck in a time loop, the Profound Darkness fight. And during this investigation, you discover a black hole's eating everything, and you get teleported inside. And you have to figure out what's going on in this mysterious planet. And the justification for everything is it's a dream world of the universe, and the universe's memory in the Akashic Record. So anything goes, because it's a hodgepodge of literally anything. And you eat this world's copies of all of the Dark Falls, I assume. You eat 2 of them right now as you go through the story. And you acquire their forms as super modes that you can activate in any mission after you build up a bar on any class. But you have to have got to the point in the story where you eat that particular Dark Fowls to get its form. And you do not build any EXP towards any of the forms you haven't unlocked yet. Because they each level up. And you need to spend that EXP to level their skills up.
This game sounds like it's getting even more heinously complicated.
Yes.
Well, the Dark Blast is actually a functional replacement for the Photon Burst. Because the Photon Burst, while a cool button to push, doesn't amount to anything anymore. Especially around mid-episode 4, stuff just had too much health for what the Photon Blast did to matter. So it's a functional replacement for that.
Well, the people only use 2 photon blasts anyway, the vacuum one and the healing one. Like,
Yeah.
That was always the case.
So, so this is your offensive button to push instead of them just buffing the offensive photon bursts.
Yeah, because nobody would surrender the utility that they had anyway.
Yeah. So that's effectively all this is, and that's all it really amounts to. But there's a whole lot of stuff you can do to make progress with it, and it's always progressing no matter what you do. Once you unlock it, it'll always gain EXP even if you don't use it. And once you've unlocked the 2 forms available, you'll gain bonus EXP for the one you do use, but the other one will still gain standard quest EXP. So yeah, it's a fun extra thing to have progressing alongside everything else. And it's also really obnoxious when you're doing a Buster quest at rank 3 and there are level 90s that don't have their Dark Blast available for the second defense phase, and you're the only one running around punching the big fists coming out of the sky to stop them from one-shotting everybody, because nobody else has done the story and unlocked it. When that's very clearly the phase you're supposed to use it in.
Because you have to make, instead of expecting the general public of an MMO to be behaving in a functional and competent manner, and what part of your experience in MMOs has taught you that this is in any way a reasonable supposition?
Not during the first few weeks of content, but that's been my experience so far with the new content. The story is PSO2 story. It continues in the vein of episode 4, which is much better than episodes 1 through 3, especially episode 1. But it's still PSO2 story. It's nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
It is contrived reasons with a decent plot to go do new cool system mechanics they thought up. So yeah. PSO2's going. It's a very easy game to play still. I've got every class to 75 now with the ridiculous number of bonus keys we got because they had maintenance during PSO2 day because of a bug with the release of this patch.
Oh dear.
So there was a bug that made it so you could duplicate items in the personal shop when trading.
Oh dear.
This was a problem.
Explosion.
Yeah, the economy completely exploded, so they undid every single transaction after a certain number of hours after the bug was discovered to the point of maintenance.
Woof.
And they reimbursed everybody with bonus keys and star gems, and extended PSO2 day by 24 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, we got to experience that. And yeah, it was enough bonus keys. And after a while, you realize the most effective way to use the stupid bonus keys is to stockpile them till PSO2 day or PSO premium day if you have a premium subscription. Once they get an expiration date that is at or past that date, and then blow them all at once and use the PSO2 day boost and wait for a concert as well. And you'll just be raining in EXP and able to level up all your alt classes. So I did that and got everything to 75 and got hero to 77. There is no generic stat boost for hero, by the way. Although you will definitely not want just a few classes at 75, but as many as humanly possible before you play hero, for 2 reasons. Number 1, it needs every single type of attack power, and it converts attack power from the various not in use types to bonus attack power towards what you are using as your main attack power at that particular moment. And you need a ton of PP for the twin machine guns, because they don't regen your PP naturally just over time like normal. Their auto attack drains it. The only way to get it back is to reload. This means you have to stop doing damage and reload your guns.
Yeah.
And you have to time the reload perfectly. It's actually pretty fun once you figure it out, but it is the hardest part of the class to get down while you're first learning it. And you need a PP pool of about 150 or higher to be able to reasonably use twin machine guns and their whole ability swath without feeling like every 2 abilities you got to reload. So yeah, I've been enjoying episode 5 so far. There's enough stuff in it to keep doing. The new weapon tiers and level system is absurdly complicated and won't matter in a month anyway, and people are on the Reddit hashing it all out, how to optimize it. I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to matter in a literal month, dudes. We'll be at tier with JP in a month and a half. So why are you wasting your time getting your EX Atlas by grinding for 20 plus hours right now?
By and large, it's all going to be fairly pointless anyway. Since we've got that big overhaul thingy, whatever you want to call it, coming up later next year.
Yeah, PSO22. But I could understand it if we were just waiting for PSO22 and needing something to do in the meantime. People go in and hashing it out just to optimize in the meantime because it's fun. No, we're literally we know we're going to have everything replaced at a regular interval every 3 weeks. Yes. There is no point in min-maxing any weapon, especially when they put the previous tier in the unique weapon badge vendor. So you can go buy Nemesis weapons right now. I'm using Nemesis plus 30 twin machine guns.
Yeah.
You see, this is the sort of crap that made me stop playing.
It's just, while everything is in such an unstable state, there's really not a point in getting too invested.
Yeah, if you are not... the only thing worth progressing right now is alt classes for the star gems, the titles, the bonus stats, etc., and the utility for subclasses. There is no reason to progress your actual weapons. And now you can at least progress your units because of the ring fusion system that does not get replaced. So that you can at least work on those now if you really want to. But there will obviously be slightly better units that get released. But by and large, you can make a good piece of unit now. And be able to use it for the rest of the existence of up to where JP set.
All right. So that's something.
But yeah, there is no reason to progress weapons themselves. It is completely pointless. And I do not know why people spaz out about it. And I know why they spaz out about it, because it's a bad system. I don't know why they go ham trying to min-max their weapons when they're literally going to be replaced. And you see all these theory crafters that are working, they got to play something 20 hours a day. I'm like, man, I don't have time for that. I barely have time to get classes kind of leveled up. And I just got them all to 75, and I've been focusing on leveling the classes exclusively for the months that I've played. And that's a lot of bonus keys if you do the dailies every day. It takes a lot of bonus keys to get that high. And it took the PSO 2-day maintenance refund to get them there.
It just doesn't sound very fun to me to be on a treadmill that's constantly accelerating.
Yeah.
Well, we got episode 5 will be fully released in a month, or episode 5 will be done releasing in about a month and some change, probably. And we'll get the last bits of that. And then I'd say by December, we're looking at episode 6 dropping, and by the end of the year, episode 6 will have either fully released or be nearly fully released. And then the game will be caught up to JP. Yeah. Or maybe one patch behind.
It won't be far off either way.
That said, I need to bash PSO2 pretty bad.
Okay.
Now, I was very proud of their Reddit for once. This Reddit that is, like most Reddits, white knighty for the company as crap.
Typically totally cancer. Although I've never seen anybody white knighting for Delightworks on the FGO.
They don't
Reddit.
need it.
They
deserve the scorn.
They have reached critical mass in numbers with the Lightworks. I don't think it matters with them.
Hell, I think they relish in the scorn.
Yeah, at this point, it's a joke.
Yeah.
It's a literal joke for things like NP skip. But
never get.
Yeah. So the quality of the PSO2 translation is dubious at good times. They clearly get the point across, and the story's general idea is pretty good, but they do not have a functional editor. He is, like, seriously borderline brain dead, or they just don't have one. And just have the same person reread their translation and have to stamp it and say, okay, that's good because of how fast they're going. It's so bad that when the hero class got released, a lot of heroes are doing subpar damage because they did not take the hero weapon damage bonus because they translated it in the skill tree as healing weapon bonus.
That's a pretty big goof.
Is it like somebody asked, what were we going to type into this field again? And they called from across the other side of the office and they misheard.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
And there was no proofreading at any point.
That's pretty much how it went. But the entirety of the Reddit got up in arms because this same translation team decided to make a few changes in the game that made everybody mad.
They woke it, didn't they?
Oh yeah, they started to, and I'm not sure they'll continue after the backlash they got, because when Reddit ain't defending you, and you're still a fairly niche game, and you have a Reddit, you've done goofed.
Yeah, normally Reddit's all full gung ho for the wokenization of things.
Yeah, like there was like almost nobody was willing to object to them changing the art for Emir Alter in FGO.
What was wrong with his art before?
Well, because his skin was too dark.
Yeah. The logic doesn't matter. It's just Reddit.
If someone had said he looks like Aqualad, then yeah, okay, I'd buy that one.
No, they said that he was a blackface character and therefore it needed to be changed.
Yeah, it is dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, so PSO2's translators decided to change blacklist to blocklist because the word black is offensive. And they changed all instances in outside of story, because people are posting snippets of what they did whenever it shows up in story to say you missed one and rub it in their face. But especially with your auxiliary of master to handler.
That's worse.
Yes.
Like a master could be a teacher or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not always a negative thing.
Now, if you are an astute observer, you will remember and you have played the episode 1 of the story, Melfinsina, when she refers to Gedemholt, goes Master Gedemholt.
Yes, she does.
All the time. And so the Reddit has used this as a cudgel to beat them over the head for how stupid this is.
Yes. Because
they didn't change those instances.
Are they just going to are they planning on re-recording all the dialogue?
I don't know. They didn't do it, and I think they did change the text, but they didn't re-record the dialogue. And so Reddit absolutely lost their minds over this because it shows where their priorities are, and it ticked everybody off that we have typos. There's like a random O I noticed just a little bit ago in a story cutscene that is capitalized when the rest of the sentence is just a normal sentence because of a typo that didn't get caught. That they just straight mistranslate some, they don't transcribe the line that's being read. There's glaring descriptions that are missing for item descriptions that just aren't translated yet, so the item just won't have a description sometimes for miscellaneous junk.
There's long been skill descriptions in the skill trees that are just straight up wrong.
Yeah, the skill trees are just wrong sometimes and have to be patched later. They've been patching those slowly and fixing them whenever somebody points one out. They usually get around to it about 2 weeks later. But usually there are still some that somehow are still slipping by. But yeah, and this releasing with the same patch that gave us healing weapon bonus really set people off.
Yeah.
And so I was quite proud of the Reddit. That made me really happy to see them actually see Reddit for once get up in arms about this. Now, they're mad about where their priorities are and the poor quality of their work elsewhere rather than what they actually did, because that's really, really dumb. But since it got caught in the crossfire, I'll take it.
It's a step forward, I guess.
They must have hired one of those diversity people.
Ugh. Stop hiring those diversity people.
I guarantee you they're in California.
Be a company.
Yeah.
Well, they're all racists. That's what it comes down to.
They're hypocrites of the highest order, yes.
Yeah. I mean, well, we mean they're literal racists. They judge people based on their race rather than the content of their character.
Yes.
Doing anything other than judging by the content of your character is racism.
It's not just that they judge people by their race. They, in fact, judge literally everything by race.
Mm.
Yeah.
There is nothing which is not viewed through some perverse racial lens for those people.
Yeah. So they got blasted by every single PSO2 site that I could dig up. Now, I don't know if the mods on the Reddit were trying for a little bit to tone it down, and they gave up.
Wow.
There are a conspicuous number of posts that disappeared at the start of it, but eventually they just gave up because the people just ran them over.
Yeah.
So, and every other website was in a similar hoo-ha about this because I went digging around to see how everybody was reacting. And if the community did not react this way, this would probably be close to a deal breaker, especially with another game to play with Genshin Impact coming out. And I might have put the game on ice for a bit. But seeing the community do that, like, okay, I'll let it go for a little bit more. If they keep it up and go deeper and don't learn their lesson here, I think that's when it'll become a breaker.
I'm struggling to think of any situation where they have managed to pull back, though.
Yeah, so we'll see. I haven't seen the community react in unison for a game with a population the size of PSO2s or bigger. Just unify and run somebody over, though.
I think that's probably largely due to fatigue. Like, people are just tired of this stuff. It's everywhere now, and it's intruding on the only escapes people have to get away from it.
Yeah. So yeah. But the community reaction is letting me give it a temporary pass, although it is still very much in the back of my mind, and will probably wind up being the reason I eventually put PSO2 on ice. So yeah. That's PSO2.
Unfortunately, Genshin Impact has a similar problem, except it's relative to our overlords in China.
Yeah. So that actually tangents into something that happened during the week as well. Did we talk about it last week?
About what?
The VTubers?
Oh no, this all happened this week. The pylon started.
Right.
Time has been so strangely stretched
and compressed at the same time.
And compressed at the same time. Like, weeks seem to fly by, but each week seems to crawl by at a pace of, maybe a month per week.
Yeah.
So much junk happens every week that it could fill a month or more.
But I think that there was a Babylon Bee article went up recently saying October scheduled to take about 3 years.
I wouldn't say no. And make up for the rest of the year, which is somehow we're at October already.
Yeah. This year, when I think back on it, it feels like every week has gone really fast, but as a year, it feels like it's drug on forever because it just, stuff is nonstop.
Yeah, and 2020 is, among other things, the year that broke time.
Yeah. So, I guess we can treat this as our first news segment for the week if we don't have any emails. Did anybody remember to check?
No. Because we're that professional.
We are that professional. So, carry on while I check.
So,
the topic's already started.
So, before we dive into the topic, I'll preface this one by saying that
no.
There's no email. We don't know a whole lot of the specifics of what happened other than what we saw. Everybody and their sister is putting out contradictory information, claiming to be a
insider.
Yeah, an insider or something.
I'm wondering if actually there's like 2 or 3 trolls out there, and they're just going around spreading
we know that's the case. We'll get into that in a minute.
Oh, internet.
So, Hololive made the incredibly dumb decision early in its cycle as a company to partner with China and set up talent there to perform, which was a mistake.
Well, I mean, if you're in the tech industry, though, everybody was doing it.
Yeah. So they have talent in China that's associated with the company through a shell sub company, also called Hololive, I think, or Hololive CN, that runs like five girls that do Chinese content in Mandarin. And Hachima, resident Australian, slowly having a mental breakdown girl.
Yeah, I think at this point you just call her the resident Australian nutcase at this point.
Yeah, poor girl. And this has got to be
completely.
She's going to come back and she's going to have torn her hair out if she doesn't get completely canned because of this. She was going through her YouTube analytics, thinking people by viewership count or donation amount by country, and Taiwan is on the YouTube analytics list.
Mm-hmm.
and she said Taiwan. And
What's Taiwan? Isn't it called Chinese Taipei?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is
So
that bit at the south of China.
So West Taiwan got angry at this.
I've really enjoyed the West Taiwan meme, actually.
So now China has an equivalent. The closest thing we have is the 4chan BTard, but that doesn't quite convey how rabid the
Chinese equivalent. They are not like BTards. They are hostile and insane. Like BTards are just like the name suggests. They're belligerent and retarded. The Chinese equivalent would be more likely to, you would more analogize them with a religious zealot, like somebody who's like a jihadi for their culture.
Somebody that has been completely brainwashed by the commie CCPs, and they go to bat for China for any time somebody somewhere in the world on the internet makes even the slightest slight against China, and this counted.
The thing is that this is not when he says they go to bat for them, it's not like on 4chan where they will mostly just blather on 4chan. No, their approach is to undertake terrorism.
Yeah, they will spend money to and have so many members that they will just crash websites associated with whatever offended them. They'll go in and spam the chats over and over again with multiple bots through multiple VPNs to make them completely unusable and post offensive things that'll get YouTube to ban it. They will.
What ameliorates the destruction that 4chan is capable of is the fact that 4chan refuses to cooperate with 4chan 99.99% of the time.
Yeah, 4chan's biggest enemy usually is 4chan.
Every one of Chinese equivalents is singing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, and they will dox you. They'll not, which I don't honestly put as much stake in as most people do. They will stalk you if they have agents that live in your area to harass you in real life. They will do all kinds of legitimately dangerous stuff to you if they can get away with it. They'll make you unhireable by other companies by making you an enemy of the CCP that cannot be hired. And as you'll see with this one, they'll make your name straight out be banned on some applications that have parts that are associated with China. Like, these people are insane. They will come after you, and they're called antis, by the way. We don't really have an anti-type in the West. Nothing like China has. And they have developed an obsession with Hololive for a while now. And Hachima accidentally saying Taiwan set them off. And Coco, apparently seeing the writing on the wall here, or being completely oblivious and this is all happenstance, we're not sure, also did something similar or showed Hachima's stream, I can't remember, and during her Asakoko news or something. And so she got Taiwan on her channel as well. Well, now Coco's in trouble. And because it looks more deliberate that Coco did it because it happened after Hachima did it, and so close to it, whether she was trying to help take the bullet for Hachima or not, she got even more antis mad and super mad and focused on her.
The other thing to remember about antis is that they are all like spectacularly racist and they hate anybody who's not Han Chinese, and that includes other Chinese who don't happen to be Han Chinese.
Yeah, they are popping mad. They especially hate Coco because Coco is mixed Japanese American, I think. Because we know who she is in real life. She has a real life stream, and she looks Japanese or some Eastern variant. But at least I can't quite tell with her. But she looks Eastern to some degree. She might have some Chinese or Korean in her. It's hard to tell. Anyway, she's had their attention for a while because she's also the most palatable to the West, and these people also hate anything that's palatable to the West. And since Hololive's been their obsession, Coco's been in their sights for a while. And they started coming down in force. Well, like a day or so after this happens, in fact, not even a day, it was like less than 12 hours, Hololive, for 3 weeks, suspends both Hachima and Coco. This was, well, if they had not just released the English version of Hololive and put out the Hololive Ian Girls, This would have just been another Japanese company treating their talent badly because they had just put out the EN version. And historically, especially the past few years, the English-speaking audience has not been okay with this, especially right after Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And the Blitzchung incident and other things of that nature.
The thing that you've got to keep in mind, though, is that the EN has diversified the audience, so now it includes a large number of classically freedom-oriented Americans and a large number of Central and Eastern Europeans who have lived under Soviets.
So, yes. And this let a firestorm under those people's feet, mine included. I was quite angry at Hololive with this. Because while I enjoy their talent and what their talent does, this is a break point for a company with me.
Hololive owns the characters and employs the people, but they are just a talent agency.
And
they could control people to a certain extent is unpalatable to most people in the free West.
Yeah, even though this is fairly standard operating procedure, especially in like the idol industry in Japan.
But there's nobody who doesn't find the Japanese idol industry repugnant who lives in the West.
But even in Japan, a not insignificant chunk of the people think it's ridiculous how tight a leash these people are kept on. And Hololive is very much in the same or a similar boat, not the same boat, but a very similar one. And so the English-speaking fan base got up in arms. Now, Reddit squashed anybody that tried to call China asshole for a while. They gave up for a bit, and then they came back with their mods like injecting themselves with Adderall or something to keep these things squashed forever, as long as they could. Because
Reddit.
Because they were mad. Some still slip through the cracks and are still clickable on like the farms thread for this stuff. But in general, they squished a good chunk of it. After about 12 to 24 hours after that, they put out a statement in English and in Chinese. And in the Chinese version, they did the exact wrong thing. Nobody told them, apparently, that there are people that can read Chinese in the English-speaking audience. Because they said to China, yes, we affirmed the One China policy, and we totally respect China, and China's wonderful, and we love China, and we are so sorry that our talent acted out and spoke things that were very, very inappropriate. We're sorry. Typical Chinese grovelly stuff. In the West, they said that their talent had revealed classified information that they were not at privilege to disclose.
The thing is, this sort of crap has happened several times, and nobody ever seems to learn the lesson. Like that, they will release two different press statements, one to Red China and one to the rest of the world.
Except, it doesn't take a whole lot to find the other press statement.
Yeah, and they just acted like only the Chinese would hear the Chinese one.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
Like Yagu, you can say as much as you want that you should only take official translations and not the fan translations all day long. But if you put out something that's completely different and your fans catch a wind of it, they're going to find out and it's going to get spread like wildfire and you're going to get called a liar. Mm-hmm. And I don't think actually Yagu is to blame for this one in the policy whack because he took a pay cut with this trying to defend the girls. Apparently. In the press statement from Hololive in English, they say they cut Yagu's pay. So this happened. And so the internet was ablaze with people mad and for about all week at this and going after China and Hololive and cover their parent company. And so what disturbed me about the whole thing was the excuse that's being parroted around that has the most traction right now. And that is the Hololive CN girls would be in danger if Hololive stood up to China. Therefore, this is the only action they could take. No. Screw that. You could cut ties with China right now. There is another option. You know how dangerous this is. You know what it's going to do for your long-term business prospects and that you're hurting yourself in the immediate future and in the long term by doing this, especially when you're just now launching the EN branch. It would be a solid and sound tactical decision to just chop off the whole Chinese arm and be done with it. But people are parodying this around like it's a legitimate thing. I'm like, no, not at all. it doesn't matter at the end of the day either. So that's the story of what happened. I don't know if Vol knows anything that I don't.
I don't know very much other than it was very pointed that Gura decided immediately to stick her oar in and dedicate herself to Coco at a time where policy is, if you are a member of HoloLive, you can't mention the name of someone who is currently under disciplinary action.
Oh, is it? Oh dear.
Oh, dear.
But the thing is that the shark is so popular and so much of their North America interest is tied up in her specifically that they really can't do anything about it. Because if they were directly to move on the Shark Girl, that would rally her entire fan base and its meteoric gain in size against HoloLive itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she said, I think she just said, like, this is for Coco Paisen or something, when the song came up that was a Yakuza song. And that's all she said.
Yeah,
and
but she's not allowed to do that though, and so they've been, despite the fact that she's broken the rules, I think that they've just been avoiding saying anything.
Yeah, because
just going to try and ignore it.
The firestorm that would start would be ridiculous, and it also puts Coco back in the forefront and now ties her to the shark money. So in a way, Gura is offering tacit and actual real support to the girls by putting an extra barrier where if Gura gets in trouble because of this, and then HoloLive takes a huge revenue hit, loses practically an entire division with the EN dying immediately, and still keep Coco's name alive to make sure that people are talking about it for the whole suspension, so they can't just quietly fire her afterwards. But yeah, and what made all this double bad was right before this we had the Mana incident, or the Alomana, or whatever her name was. Alomana, the succubus girl, was fired after, or quit. It's not made clear what happened in reality, although they say she quit. I don't believe that, and neither does most of the fan base.
Well, most people who quit in a contentious situation usually quit because they are made to quit. They are pressured to quit. That's true across every industry, pretty much.
Yeah. So she had a minor mistake that led to real life errors that got her suspended and made other people take, stupid actions and get people in trouble. And they fired her after 2 streams.
Wow.
And effectively. And immediately afterwards, they put this big wordy press statement out. We're going to do better to protect the talent, and tried to spin it like it wasn't really her fault, and she left voluntarily. And then this happened.
Yeah, nobody believes that crap.
Yeah.
And so everybody's really mad. HoloLive revenue has tanked. Several of their channels have lost subscribers for the more medium to moderate talent, or moderate to low watch talent. People are unsubbing, and or it was losing subs for a few days, which is a big deal on YouTube, because if your sub count ever hits the negative period, you done screwed up something bad.
Yeah.
There's super chat revenue tanked, and they had to turn off super chats because people were posting Taiwan number 1.
Oh no.
And and while these streams were not supposed to be mirrored on Bilibili, they are. So,
well, I mean, it's sort of hard to believe that all the Chinese netizens are actually in the tank for the CCP. I think that their front-facing part of the community has pretty much been displaced entirely by agents and patsies. But there probably still is, knowing the way that China operates, there's probably still a dark web community which runs in parallel.
Yeah, there's from the discussions on the forums about people that are actually in China or claim to be from China, they say it's at least a 85% split between people that are for and against the CCP on the internet actively doing stuff. It just, you don't ever hear about the ones that aren't, because they'll send the Chinese Gestapo to your house.
Yeah.
If they find out.
You get disappeared.
Yeah. So,
if you're lucky.
Yeah. He'll get turned into harvested parts if you're on the moderate end of unlucky.
Soylent Green.
It's people.
But yeah, this has been all over the internet mediums and entertainment news all week. Coco made it on TV.
Oh, wow.
Apparently, on her personal stream, she noticed it and could not say anything because it's not supposed to be her. But she was very happy that she made it on the TV and was making as much of a joke as she could without mentioning that she was Coco.
It was also the debacle was also mentioned in the Japanese Parliament in one of their foreign policy interactions.
The guy that
not a high level of mention, but enough that it's now on the government radar.
Yeah, when you make a mistake and it ends up being discussed even lightly in Parliament, you know you've done goofed.
And the statement to the Parliament was very much so in favor of the Hololive girls. It was apparently a guy from the conservative wing of the Japanese government, and he was pointing out that, companies making deals with China results in this crap, and he included a lot of examples and stuck the Hololive girls in there because it's the most recent example and most that's going around the news.
There are a lot of weebs in the Japanese Parliament.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunked?
So, yeah. And the biggest thing I took away from this is poor Hachima.
Yeah, as if she needed anything else to send her around the bend.
Like, that girl is losing her mind. She's in a country that she can barely speak a passable version of the language to go to the store and do basic things in real life. She can speak English, but it's like functional, like somebody that's just immigrated from Mexico to the US level English.
Yeah,
it's not great. She's only been there for about a year and some change. And she's been stuck in Australia because of their stupid COOF lockdown and cannot go home and had to stay over a whole extra season in addition to her schooling if she wanted to graduate because she couldn't go home and come back.
Yeah, at least stupid COOF lockdown is kind of ending it now.
Well, it's ending in places that are not Victoria.
Yeah, everywhere else except Victoria, because apparently they're pushing for eradication, despite, logic, common sense, and all advice to the contrary that it would be possible.
Well, yeah. Victoria's state government are part of Team Soros, so
yeah.
And I don't think they're offhandedly like they're the only ones that subscribe to those globalist clubs of nations.
Yeah.
Victoria State is the only one who's down with the Soros jam.
Yeah, and so poor Hachima. And then she was doing a genuinely humble part of her stream, at least. I don't know the stream it was on because it's gone. It disappeared. But she was just thanking her fans and probably didn't think a dang thing about it.
No, it doesn't sound like she would have. It's just what you do.
And it was trying to be nice and just wound up starting a firestorm that has now become practically an international incident.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was inevitable. Like, it will be amusing if World War III starts over waifus, but...
I mean, if Hachima starts World War III, it ain't a meme anymore. Like, Hachima herself is a meme that Akihito set up with this crazy girl that can make impossible things happen. As a separate personality she's evolved into due to being stuck in Australia.
The power of madness.
If she starts World War III, Hachima ain't a meme. Hachima's real.
Everyone knows meme magic is real. Like, why do you think that you have a reality TV staff as president of the United States?
This
meme
is
magic.
Yeah. Meme magic.
Meme magic.
I'm not saying there isn't precedent for it. I'm just saying that's when the meme magic will have been made real. For this particular instance. So yeah, I've been not following it super duper closely. This is just the timeline of events I've given that we're fairly certain is what happened, and speculations as far as I know that have the most credit around each part of it. But I assume we'll get more information as time goes on, and somebody will leak something that's credible at some point. And part of the reason we said there's contradicting information is the Chinese antis are out in droves, deliberately spreading false information, paying for super chats on the girls' streams to further spread misinformation, and going around to the Reddits and on other websites. They don't seem to have hit the farms, thankfully, probably because no one wouldn't tolerate that crap.
Well, they probably can't understand anything that's written on the farms either.
Yeah,
because
no.
In an environment like that, they speak a different language. It's not English.
No.
Yeah. So we definitely have our own lingo when we post on the farms. I just said we when I said the farms. Oh, God.
You can't hang yourself now. I'm sorry. It's over for you.
You're over. You're done.
It's been my main news source at this point. It's not my fault. But yeah, there's definitely some unique lingo for there. And yeah, the information is just really hard to get straight because everybody is claiming to have an insider or a source somewhere that's probably just another Chinese dude that is trying to cause more trouble. Although I strongly encourage people to continue spamming Taiwan #1 in super chats on all the girls' streams. If they in creative spelling ways, because they keep banning ways you can spell Taiwan as a word filter in the super chats.
Because of course they do. Of course they do.
But people are still getting fairly creative from the screenshots I've seen. So I encourage people to keep that up. Eventually we'll run out of potential spellings and just have to make something else mean Taiwan.
Well,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be the first time they've just decided to substitute a word.
Yeah.
As one of the, if you're talking, you know, brass tacks, it's actually regarded as one of the most powerful tools in culture war.
Yeah. So, East Island of China.
I just got my first 5-star.
West Taiwan.
Sorry.
Yeah. Doesn't work. West Taiwan is much better. I can't think of an equivalent way to flip it if Taiwan gets banned as a word, but I'm sure we can come up with something, or the internet at large can come up with something. But yeah, it was funny to watch the Hololive thread on the forums explode from like 20 pages of 20 posts each to over 50 in a day. When this happened, it was kind of ridiculous.
Oh boy!
But yeah, that's consumed internet international news about when it comes to the entertainment stuff that we talk about all week.
Internet international news.
I'll dump the niche gamer thread into the live show chat. I'm not going to link the farms thread for obvious reasons, but you can start
to go there anyway because I live in a police state.
Yeah, I would link it anyway and just say you couldn't go to it, but with the way your state's going, being associated with a server that links to it regularly could be dangerous.
Well, it's regarded as a terrorist entity in New Zealand. That's the thing.
Yeah.
For now.
You know, as asinine as that is.
Yep. So, oh dearie me. That's that one. What other news is there?
Something happier. Let's see. What do we got? You want to talk about the new Smash Brothers character reveal? No.
But we can mention it. I'll mention it because
How is it that Smash Brothers character reveals seem to be the single most cancerous thing on the internet anytime they happen?
Because the Smash community exists.
Yeah, the Smash community has been toxic for a while and very vocal. And I think the spurgery they're known for and propagate themselves just metastasize into them squealing about a character release, and everybody jumped on board because they saw so many people doing it so loudly.
Yeah.
And turned it into a thing. I actually think it was organically built just by accident.
The accidental harnessing of people's spurgery.
Yeah, so the Smash character reveal happened, and it consumed the gaming part of the internet in terms of news.
Because it was Steve.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, my cousin is been stuck in my office by his dad, who is my boss. So he found this out during his lunch break, and he goes, "Steve's the new Minecraft character," and I go, "Who?"
Wait, what? Yeah, it is Minecraft Steve. A lot of people don't know his actual name, but yeah, it's Steve.
He's the blue shirt guy, right?
He's the blue shirt guy.
He's the default Minecraft model.
A lot of people don't know that because there's really nowhere it's actually in the game.
Yeah, so I mean, Minecraft's popular, yeah. But it was, in a way, they simultaneously managed to tick off everybody that was hoping for a proper character. So much so that Sakurai came out and had to kill the hype around himself by going, I'm not the one that writes all these decisions when it comes to making the characters. It's largely out of my control at this point for the DLC character.
Yeah, although I do like Sakurai's memery, at least, because he says, Nintendo approaches me with a character and says, hey, why don't we put this character in Smash? And they'd say, that's a terrible idea. It's going to be impossible. So naturally, I said yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, the vitriol that was coming out towards him was typical Smash vitriol, but for those that are not in the know, that is absolute cancer.
Yeah.
Like, this is a constant stream of go kill yourself. Or worse.
Because
not quite on the level of like the Chinese antis we were just talking about, but the people were really mad.
No, this is just garden variety internet spurgery.
Yeah. But yeah. So Sakurai had to come out and try and put the fire out himself, or at least redirect it. I noticed that he never made a statement that would go out and put the fire out, so I'm not sure he was a big fan of this either.
Yeah.
So he just kind of redirected it at the higher-ups and Nintendo as a whole.
I actually watched the how this character will work thing last night, and honestly, if he hasn't nerfed it by the time it's launched, which is entirely possible, Steve's going to be ridiculously broken.
Yeah, he needs a bunch of recovery frames.
Yeah, not just because of how his stats are, it's just because of how some of his abilities work.
Yeah, he needs to be incredibly vulnerable after performing any of them to make him balanced.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of them he is vulnerable, but even so, do you know what I mean? if someone's in recovery and you just be able to jump out into the void and build a solid wall in front of them to drop them down into the void.
Yeah.
That's a bit nuts.
It'll cut a lot of play out and make him a wonky anti-meta pick, probably, from what I've seen, but I don't follow Smash that closely, so I don't even know if they do the below stage smashes very common anymore.
No, I don't know. And on the plus side, at least it's going to take a lot of skill to pull off some of the really wonky stuff with him.
Smash is super cancer anyway. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. I play it with friends, and that's it. I don't play anything beyond that.
I like the idea of talking about balance and Smash just seems wrong-headed to me.
I don't even play Smash with friends. If I was playing with friends, I would feel the need to become competent with a character. I play it with family.
Yeah, okay. Admittedly, I play most of it.
I think that if you start to take Smash seriously and become competent at it, they will stop being your friends.
Yeah, because then you become that guy.
Yeah, well, it's not just that, but like there's sort of Smash has a sort of a conceptual overlap with a Mario Party in that when you become good at it, the way you play is by being evil.
Yeah. Kind of by being a dick.
But because it's specifically with family, my favorite character is random. Because if I play one character too much in one session, I'll pick up more stuff than they will, just by merit of time spent playing Vidya. So I cannot allow myself to play one character for too long, in even one sitting.
Admittedly, I do have a main, which is DDD, because DDD.
Because you feel bad for him, because Kirby bullies him all the time.
Kirby's a jerk.
Yeah, I was maining Kirby before the DLC characters came out.
Yeah, that's all I need to know.
Mostly it's because of the memes. Like, DDD is just a walking meme.
Yeah, so, oh boy. I do not care for this announcement. I don't like the character. I don't like Smash very much. Smash is firmly in the list of games. If somebody says, hey, we should play Smash, and I know that they don't play it regularly, I'll be like, yeah, sure, we could play some Smash.
You just play the Smash.
And, yeah. So
it's something you dust off just for a bit of goofy fun, and that's a bit where it should be, I think.
But yeah, I don't. I do not care about Steve. It's a bad character. IMO. He's not iconic. He doesn't do anything for me.
Well, he is iconic, but yeah.
And, well, because whenever I see people playing Minecraft, they all have custom avatars. I don't see Steve.
Yeah, but Minecraft itself is kind of like the poster child for indie success. No other game, hell, it's even sold.
He's the poster child and nobody knows his name.
Exactly. The game itself.
Can you imagine if cancel culture was in full swing back when Notch still owned the franchise?
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Minecraft wouldn't have got off the ground.
No.
Notch sold that at the perfect time.
He did.
Because, holy crap.
I see a lot of people saying, oh, not now Steve's in Smash, not just to be kicking himself that he sold the thing. No, he's not. Notch
He's
is
quite.
Why would you want to be associated with Smash to begin with?
Notch is quite happy in his enormous mansion, sitting on his pile of money.
Tweeting incredibly base things.
Yes. Things that
It's-
make
it's
the
like-
blue check marks squeal.
It's like Elon Musk, though, right? Once you've got a certain amount of money,
You stop caring.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
say what you want.
You can just do
Yeah.
what you want.
Yeah, he hit the FU money limit right before all the cancel culture started,
Yeah.
and then he sold it and made even more money.
And just get out money.
So I think Notch is quite happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whatever reveal. It's unfortunately eaten most of the gaming news. There was other stuff I feel like happened this week, but all anybody's talking about is the daggum Smash reveal. And I just do not care. There is another story. I forgot to link it because I saw it at work and didn't want to sign on Discord. But
the Monster Hunter movie?
no.
I saw a clip from there. I didn't look for a trailer. I saw a clip from it, and I almost cringed to singularity into
Hold on a sec.
space.
I didn't even click on it because I'm like, oh, that's going to be really dumb.
I mean, it's a video game movie. Of course it's going to be dumb. Here's the trailer.
Yeah, but there's a certain amount, a certain timber of dumb that you can do, which is not also
Hang on
retarded.
a moment. I'm watching the trailer now. Are they fighting Black Diablos with military hardware?
Yes, they are,
Why?
because they
Yeah.
don't know anything about Monster Hunter.
You have to use a giant mobile phone on a stick. That's how you fight monsters.
You need to use another monster,
Or-
part of another monster,
Bits of it.
flail away at the monster that you are trying to kill. That is how it works. That is how it has worked since time immemorial.
Yes.
Use military hardware like some kind of scrub.
That's
No, you-
cheating.
You beat Diablos with the parts of like Anjanath or something.
Or for
that
best effect, the severed head of its dead mate.
Yeah. You beat Diablos using another Diablos.
Yes.
Not
Preferably one
an
new.
Not a machine gun.
Not a machine gun. Certainly not a Jeep.
Yeah, not a Jeep with a machine gun on it.
So, yeah, apparently it's like a reverse isekai plot, like Monster Hunters and the monsters that go with them get teleported to the real world because of reasons.
But there has never been a Monster Hunter player who wanted that story.
No, not a single one. What we want is a story set in the Monster Hunter world about monster hunters hunting monsters. And maybe a palico.
You
Not that
just know it's going to have some kind of freaking anti-global warming message as well.
Ugh.
It's going to be like Avatar all over again.
I wish I could say you were wrong.
Not in today's day and age.
No.
So-
now I'm sad.
We're going to remember this era in media as the era when everything had to have a political message.
I think that generally speaking, in the future, historians are going to look back on this era as being completely pants on head retarded in every conceivable way.
I hope
this will be regarded as the Dark Ages 300 years from now.
Yeah, Futurama said it best. They called it the Stupid Ages. And that was
Yeah, I
before a lot of this stuff even happened.
Yeah. The like to dislike ratio on the video is quite telling. 8.4k upvotes, 12k downvotes.
Woof.
And I doubt that they're going to have the come to Jesus moment that the staff of the Sonic movie had.
Yeah. Admittedly, the Sonic staff were being held over an active volcano at that point, so...
Well, the entire community was... They ticked off one of the more spurgy groups on the internet, the Sonic fan base. So it didn't stop after the trailer.
No.
And got so bad, they were forced to listen to some of it. And to be fair, they did course correct pretty good from what I
They
understand.
did course correct. I haven't watched the movie yet. I think I will at some point. But
That Sonic was pretty horrifying.
that was awful. Awful.
The man teeth.
Ugh. The fingers.
But there was like some guy that made a fan 3D Sonic model for the movie, and it's like, why couldn't they do something like this? And it went viral, and they hired the guy. That's how bad it was. They literally hired the first Twitter guy that made it a passable version and said, "Okay, you do it." But yeah, Capcom just kind of gave the rights to Monster Hunter to Hollywood and said, "Have at it," I guess.
Just go. We don't care. Do it.
And while if we were in a sane era, I would appreciate it. But we're in 2020.
Yeah.
We are in current year.
Stupid current year.
Like, a bad video game movie is one thing. A bad video game movie in 2020 is just gonna be, oh boy.
It's just gonna be, oh boy. Like, we've had a run of okay video game movies, and that's, I think, the peak we're gonna get.
Well, you say that, but what actually happened is that Uwe Boll stopped making movies.
That is a blessing to all.
Did he stop making movies?
Hopefully he's been prevented from making movies at gunpoint. Ugh. So, yeah, like the video game adaptations haven't been, well, most of them haven't been awful. They've just been okay. Although this Monster Hunter one does look awful. Like, really bad.
Diablos looks nice.
Yeah, the Diablos model looked pretty good. When I saw it took me a minute to go rereading the news a bit before the show to realize that it was a trailer for a movie. Because it looked like, oh, it's just another Monster Hunter trailer, and Diablos is in there when I glanced at it earlier in the week.
Maybe that's how we're supposed to watch this movie, is just, watch the bits with the monsters in it for the eye candy, and skip everything else.
Yeah, so...
I felt like it was sort of... They were setting themselves up for failure, or at least for thoroughly established preconceptions at the point where they got the woman from Resident Evil to be the main actress.
Egg.
Like, why? It's like, I know that Resident Evil is regarded as one of the handful of video game to movie adaptations where there are at least some movies that don't make you vomit, but that doesn't mean that you
the
can
Resident
solve the
Evil
problems
one. Oh, the first Resident Evil was so awful, but it was awful in a campy way.
And it was effectively, I think, a way for the director to just make the girl who was the lead in those movies either his wife or his girlfriend or some way she was associated with him into a B-movie star.
Because she was in Fifth Element.
Was she? I can't remember.
Yeah, she was.
Actress.
I might be thinking of another movie series then.
Maybe. Oh boy.
But yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, Capcom's done a decent video game adaptation before. Like the Phoenix Wright movie was okay. Okay, I think is the highest praise for a video game movie, where it's basically okay.
I hear a lot of people say they enjoyed the World of Warcraft one, but I thought it was really quite awful.
It was okay.
It's hard to get a barometer on the actual fan perception when it comes to anything World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
because it's going to be so
way the tank. And they don't even care.
Yeah,
it has an abnormal number of super white knights, and it also has an equal number of people that are like me. That anytime the game is mentioned, I have to go. It's bad for you.
Yes.
So using that as a segue.
Into.
For the first time since the Burning Crusade, they have delayed their deployment of the next expansion.
Yay!
And from all accounts, it was desperately needed. Everybody had given up. It was pretty much, it was fixing to be a veritable disaster. Like it was oh my goodness, the thing is a mess.
Yeah.
And everybody had thought that it was pretty much damned because, well, Activision.
Yeah. The writing is on the wall that if the new expansion fails, it could possibly be the last WoW expansion.
Yeah. And apparently, that has them scared enough. Losing that property has them scared enough that they were willing to allow Blizzard to delay again.
Yeah.
Even though they had haven't done it in a very long time. They were willing to do so, and it was very, very sorely needed. The game is in a very poor state right now. From what I've heard, I of course have not been playing it. I have not been beta testing it. I don't want to go near it. It's too dangerous.
I did play the beta and I was bored in 5 minutes.
They've got a lot of major things are just not finished. For instance, they've got a area called the Moor, which is supposed to be like your end game area, like the Timeless Isle.
Yep.
And it's apparently it's a ghost town. There's hardly anything there. You're stuck without being able to use your mount because your flying mount, I think.
For reasons.
Yeah, for reasons, but because, like on Timeless Isle, they had designed the geography of that place to function in a particular way, and they needed control over your mechanisms of movement in order to realize that. But even granting them that, they had done apparently a really exceptionally poor job at fleshing the place out. And it was deployed on beta. People said, oh well, yeah, it's got potential when it's finished, but they didn't update it at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, and apparently their balance has gone completely out of whack, and this is to be expected because they've layered way too many systems on top of each other now. Like it's absurd how many systems have been piled one on top of the other in this expansion, to the point where you can't tune anything, because if you adjust one thing, it will just throw everything else out of whack. And so all of their attempts to put tuning knobs on have basically all been for naught. Everything's fallen apart on that count. It doesn't function as it's supposed to anymore. And yeah, so that's apparent from what I've heard, that in a state now where they've got something in the order of there's between the lowest DPS class and the highest DPS class. When modeled using a program to ensure that player skill is not a factor, there is a 100% difference.
Wow.
So one person is equivalent to
literally double the damage of the less good classes.
Yeah.
Because there's so many additional combinations of things. Because they've added the covenants, and they've added the I don't even know what they're called. They've added so many different features, I can't remember them all. But they've added a bunch of different systems, and it's thrown the power curve completely out of whack. And there are a lot of systems that have completely overtaken class gameplay as well, and things like that. Like, for instance, the you get abilities with your covenant, right?
Yes.
Which are unique by covenant. Apparently there are some builds which are built around them where the covenant ends up being like most of your damage, like the vast amount of your damage, like your class mechanics are just something to do while you wait for your covenant ability to come back, type of thinking.
Yeah, I think Shadow Priests were that for one of them, because it was like shadow damage amplification or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't look too deep into it, but
basically things are a disaster right now, and they had been doing their Blizzard thing pretty much and just ignoring all the feedback because they know best. And yeah, it got to go time, and I have a funny feeling that they just started finding so many problems in their release candidates that it was probably just deemed too dangerous to try and launch it in its current state. Not when functionally it seems like the IP itself is on the line this time, so they can't take any risks with it. They can't take any additional risks.
Can you imagine them releasing another bad expansion, not only after Battle for Azeroth, but also after Warcraft 3 Reforged with the lowest rated game on Metacritic before Madden 2020 came out?
Oh yeah, Blizzard would be shuttered. If this was EA, they'd be shuttered by now, actually, after that.
Yeah, they would have shown total incompetence. I mean, they probably wouldn't shutter them, but you would see most of the staff culled and all of the management removed. That's usually what would happen there, and then the management would be replaced by accountants. Probably that's usually what happens. They just bring in a bunch of accountants, but yeah, it's pretty much the current state, from what I've heard, is an apocalyptic mess, and they need as much time as they can get. There are a lot of people, like, WoW General, of course, is extremely angry. But the people who've actually tested the game are all pretty much in agreement from what I've seen that this was the only feasible move if the game is not going to completely fall over.
Yeah. I do feel bad for the people that for some reason are still hooked on WoWcrack and cannot quit playing the game and are having to suffer through Battle for Azeroth even longer now. So I can understand why they're probably a little mad, but they really, if they're going to be stuck on WoWcrack, they probably want whatever comes out to at least be playable instead of just more Battle for Azeroth.
Oh yeah, it'll have to be good.
But it's they've got their moment of grace now. They're going to have an opportunity to try and fix things. Let's hope they make the most of it for the sake of all those people who are still attached to that infernal machine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, it seems like they have some good things in there when viewed, objectively as content decisions, but they've just got that disease where they try and complicate everything as much as possible and add a whole bunch of borrowed power. All they really need to do is start making content realistically.
Like, what did they do to the classes in, like, the other expansion they delayed? They delayed Burning Crusade to add more content, not to keep tweaking the classes from what I remember, because the only class changes they really made were you get 2 more lines in every talent tree, and everybody gets 1 or 2 new skills.
Yeah, by and large.
And that was it. And they focused everything else on content, and there was a ton of stuff to do in BC even before the daily hubs became a thing.
Yep.
Because they just focused on actually making content. Now it feels like they're just have too much time to futz around with the system mechanics and keep breaking everything because they're too busy trying to rejig those to make things interesting because they have dailies and daily hubs and world quests and grinds to keep people on the treadmill, and they don't need to make actual content.
They're making it interesting, though. It's not making it interesting for them as developers. They're not making it interesting for the players. They didn't ask the players.
Yeah, like I think it was it Wrath of the Lich King that they first announced Titan Forging, but they ended up scrapping that system.
They didn't have that stuff until Draenor, I don't think.
No, there was one earlier on.
No, you're thinking of something entirely different, Fern. You're thinking of Path of the Titans.
Oh, I am too, yes.
It never manifested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't
fun. It's a terrible idea that complicated everything for no reason.
Yeah, but we've essentially got that now in various different flavors, and they're all awful.
I didn't like the artifacts in Legion, and people love those.
Yeah.
The artifacts themselves were fine, but
no, people don't love those. If you got that impression, I don't know where you got it from. WoW General, probably. People who are interested in the system, because it meant that you were shackled to having to do a bajillion hours worth of grind to keep them all current.
Yep, and if you missed a couple of days, guess what? You're behind your friends. Enjoy.
I suppose that's when I wasn't playing and all my friends were, so they were trying to justify it to me. That's probably why I got that impression.
Maybe.
It's good. They just wanted to con you into playing, that's all. That's not the same as it being a good system.
Yeah. But ever since the introduction of those specifically, and those systems, I haven't even thought about playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah. They did... the success of Classic just shows that they really need to return to basics. None of these harebrained additional systems and borrowed power and convoluted storylines, just content.
Yeah, that's all people really want. Is they want something to do in the game. They don't want all of this stuff that's only going to be relevant for a short time.
Yeah,
it's not what they're there for.
No. And yeah, you can tell in Classic, and it was the same in Burning Crusade. There's plenty of stuff to do that's permanently affects your character that isn't a grind in the way to just every day you make incremental progress on numbers. Like, there's plenty of stuff to do to waste your time in World of Warcraft, each expansion, that doesn't move those bars, that are still progress. Like, you want to go farm Crusader enchant. Okay. That's a thing you can do. That's a grind you can set as a goal and finish and be done and move on to something else.
If the RNG likes you anyway.
Well, you're going to be there for hours anyway.
The RNG doesn't like anyone.
even if you got as much luck as I do in FGO, you're still going to be there for days, probably.
Yeah. It is not a good grind, that one.
But you can reasonably finish all of the stuff in Classic and Burning Crusade and move on to a different grind when you're done. You can't do that anymore. The current artifact power treadmill just goes forever, or whatever the equivalent is in the current X-Pack.
And as soon as you get close to getting everything from it, they move the goalpost.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that model. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is one tiny bit of news that I saw after a while. If we want to do that, or we can start wrapping up.
Go for it.
Okay. Because I can't help myself.
Oh.
I have to point out how badly politics has infected video games. Nexus Mods, the big place that has on the internet that hosts a lot of the mods for various games like Skyrim, etc.
Hands down the biggest modding site of all.
Yeah.
They unseated ModDB a while ago.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if ModDB still existed. I haven't gone to it in forever.
Yeah, it still exists, and it's still a mess.
They have got completely fed up with the politics going forward. And from their statements, it doesn't sound like they're taking a side, actually. And have just said, okay, listen, people, no political mods, period. For now, until the inauguration, and afterwards we'll review and probably remove the policy.
Yeah.
Because they are so tired of people reporting and having to deal with political mods. And a lot of people are upset about my censorship of free speech, but since they gave themselves a hard deadline, I'm more okay with it, and I can understand a site owner that just wants to make video game stuff trying to throw politics out.
Yeah, this isn't censorship of free speech. It's just go away.
Yeah, it's
you can't distribute your mod. They just don't want the blowback to be dealt with by their platform.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it caused a humongous amount of moderation overhead for them, probably.
Oh, no doubt.
Because everything counts as political these days.
Also, like 99% of those mods are really, really awful.
Yeah, it's like sticking Trumping compromising positions in every single game, or Trumpifying the entire game, or Joe Bidening wonky stuff in the game.
Yeah.
Like, they just got tired of it, and it was probably cluttering the site, and they couldn't get other content out there. But yeah, they did not retroactively ban anybody that did it, but they said from now on, no more. Don't stick them on the site until after Inauguration Day.
Yeah. Because they wouldn't be banning everything.
Yeah, so they're keeping it going till Inauguration Day, which makes sense. It gives time for the political spurs and the chimp out to cool off after the election is finally settled in court.
Let me see. Go to Fallout 4, because that's the Bethesda games are always the biggest mods on there. Let's see.
Yeah.
I think they might have already cleaned it up.
They probably deranked the political mods that were there as it was going on because they were just eating the whole dang thing.
Yeah. Hang on, let me go back a bit further. Yeah, I think they've already deranked them.
Yeah, so it's something I noticed. I was rather okay with this policy, surprisingly. When I first saw the headline, I was like, yeah, not again. But when I saw their actual statement and what they did, I'll link it in the live show chat. I was more okay with it.
Yeah, and they're just trying to throttle their personnel requirements, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also pointed out that they knew some people that are regular users of the site were uploading political mods with sock puppet accounts, and they could tell because of their IP address. So
yeah,
well, that's rule. That's basically they're trying to evade moderation.
Yeah.
So that means that it is clear that they are worried they're going to cross some line and they don't want to get in trouble for it, but they aren't willing to not cross the line. Yeah,
they deliberately called them cowards, I think, in their statement. Being uploaded by cowards with sock puppet accounts, deliberately to try and cause a stir. And they encourage everybody, if they see any mod that violates the policy, report the mod and move on. Don't engage with it. Don't give us more stuff to moderate.
Yeah.
Because those poor guys on their mod team are probably swamped in people just reporting anything from the opposite political party that they believe in. I can see Spurgs on both sides making this job hell for everybody. So, Yeah, I was if they hold true to this and undo the ban after Inauguration Day, I'll be rather impressed with how they handled it.
Yeah.
And I'll say it was an appropriate thing a website can do. Now, if they keep the policy in place forever without legitimate reason, like the community will immediately start to disperse after they remove it, so they have to reenact it. I don't. Then I'll have words to say that are not as full of praise right now. But until then, I think this is how most websites should be handling it if they're involved with just like we're just a mod website for video games, not your place to dump political spurgery.
There's social media if you want to shit all over the place.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing that happened. And yeah, I think that's all the major news we got. We were all bad this week and forgot to dump any of our articles in the show host board before the show.
I just didn't see any.
Yeah.
I didn't see any that I was really interested in. There were a few bits and pieces here and there, but none of them I thought were particularly
nothing particularly worth of discussion.
Worthy.
So yeah, I think that's everything unless y'all got anything else.
Not really, I don't think so.
Nah. This game, for a gacha game, it is really enjoyable.
Yep.
So
I'll
Genshin
probably
Impact. It is available. Just go to their website and you can download it.
I've just been walking around the field killing monsters all show. I haven't been trying to progress. I haven't been trying to fill any bars. I've just been walking around the field shooting
also,
at monsters.
Ice Elemental. Hate.
Yep.
No one likes being frozen.
Alrighty. I think we're done, folks. Email topic of the week. I actually want to hear some stuff about the HoloLive stuff, or Steve. Any of the topics we talked about have meets you can talk to us about, the WoW stuff, or even the Nexus mod stuff. Anything you can springboard off that. So just whatever we talked about on the show is your email topic of the week. Because I think you can. We need a bit more diverse viewpoints on some of these, because we're all pretty in unison on all of them.
Yeah, some of them are kind of meh. Definitely meh about Steve.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody gave us a really pro CCP
I'd be okay with that.
That would be interesting, actually.
I wouldn't know how to respond to it, because it just seems like, you know, you're advocating for outright evil at that point.
I mean, I would get to scream at somebody for an hour if I had energy that particular night. Yeah, that'd be fun.
You'd get energy from that.
Oh yeah, it would be like plus 20 energy on a 100 energy bar.
I think that there's a certain amount of value to the existence of a mod that puts Trump's head on every dragon in Skyrim, and it just flies around saying huge.
Bigly.
It'd be like having the Randy Savage model all over again.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Seriously, some people have way too much time on their hands.
And there's always the one guy who has to cover everything in Shrek.
Yeah.
Always, without exception. There's always a Shrek modder who has to make everything about Shrek.
Why?
I wonder if it's just like the same two dudes that do it for every video game.
Maybe. But why is it always Shrek?
Because when you're only got a small number of people that are doing the same thing for every game, you don't need the stuff to be very diverse, because they'll share the same interests and be obsessed with the same things, and they just happen to be obsessed with Shrek.
It was in the case of Morrowind, I believe Seth mentioned that the guy was Australian, which I can believe.
I can believe that. All right, let's get out of here, shall we?
All right.
Alrighty.
Closing comments?
I don't want to adult anymore.
Nor do I. Oh man, the whole adulting thing, I'm so over it.
I got a brief reprieve for most of last week, although I did have 2 heavy days. I had 3 days that were very light, so next week I have taxes. I don't want the taxes.
Yeah, the ultimate expression of adulting.
Man.
Quarter for our quarterly report needs to go in, and our yearly report for our fiscal year needs to go in, and our monthly report to the federal government needs to go in.
My condolences in advance to all the stupid crap you're going to find when you actually go through the accounts and find out what the opossum's been doing with the business's money.
we have made a stable income as a business this year, so we shouldn't have had to done stupid stuff like put freaking PlayStation Network charges on the company card.
You're going to open the accounts and there'll be like 3 loans taken out.
All of them for NASCAR tickets.
Oh, what I did with the last ones I saw that were done, I just listed them all as a personal loan to him that he has to pay back.
Yes.
And even if we have to do money shuffling later, he's putting that money in the dang bank account as punishment for being dumb and using the wrong card.
That's... Oh, okay. Look, if he's just being dumb, that's one thing. But yeah, there's too many family businesses who they reach a level of success and the owner will then start using it as a secondary piggy bank.
Yeah. So that was what was getting close to happening because the company couldn't pay payroll, so of course he could just take money out back when we were super in debt and before we pulled out of it. I'm like, no, isn't how this works. This is how we don't get out of debt. Stop it.
Yeah, it's a very common thing to happen, and it's what kills a vast majority of small businesses.
But I slapped the hand and said, no, stop it.
It's like rolled up newspaper across the nose.
I think I did pop him with a file folder.
Good enough.
It was the closest thing I had on hand that wouldn't seriously injure him.
No.
I don't know, maybe you should have gone for something that would seriously injure him.
He does have a novelty tiny anvil as a paperweight on his desk.
Incidentally, another mindless spoiler for Battlegrounds. Harry Dresden, Wile E. Coyote someone.
Oh, it was foreshadowed in the last encounter with that particular character where he promised anvils.
He promised anvils. Anvils happened.
Yeah. So yeah. Vol, you should get around to reading Dresden Files sometime in the next year so that we can actually talk a bit more spoilery about it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff I think would be very interesting to talk about with this book.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try. I'm almost cleared my backlog of books that I had bought in my last load of books. The question is whether or not it will be out of print by the time I go to order a copy because of the number of people buying them.
It was #1 fantasy and urban fantasy and I think just generic fantasy for that matter bestseller for the all week on Amazon.
Yeah. It's the New York Times bestseller. Is anything not a New York Times bestseller?
Any author that's had...
There's like 10 titles on the New York Times bestsellers list. So the 10 most recent books to come out will always be on it.
Yeah,
it's like if it disagrees with their politics, then it usually takes a while to get on the list, and will usually not make it up further than 3.
It's why you don't see books posted on their cover as much anymore, unless they're a #1 New York Times bestseller, which still isn't hard to do if you release your book at a downtime when nobody else big is releasing a book. But they're every author that has even moderate success is a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
And a good chunk of those are New York Times #1 bestsellers at some point.
Yeah, they give that accolade out like candy. It's not an achievement.
Yeah. So, let's see. It's still #1 on Amazon for fiction, I think. Let me check. Yes, it is. So, yeah, it reached top in fiction, actually. That's fairly impressive.
That is.
Although it has the official genre of private investigator mysteries on Amazon for some reason. I don't think Battleground is anything resembling that.
Yeah, Dresden hasn't been a private investigator for some time.
So you may have to go back to being one after the end of this book.
Maybe.
Yeah, a whole lot of shakeups happen.
Isn't he like an eldritch hatchet man for a Fey Queen?
Yes.
Isn't that his job description?
That is his job description.
It's a full-time job, but he's on call, so he has downtime. Being on call is most of the job.
Yeah. Also, we can just increase the number of potential spin-off series Butcher has written. Like, even Briefcases, he started... Actually, he made the first entry in a potential spin-off series there.
He said he'll never do it.
Aww.
He's not going to do the Lucio in the past series.
Aww. That would be pretty cool.
He said he would like to, but he does not have enough time.
He doesn't have enough time. He doesn't have enough time for the wealth of potential in a Ramirez spin-off.
Ramirez is not going to spin off after what happened.
No, that book is closed.
after Cold Case, that stuff.
Spoilers?
No, it's not. Well,
It's been out for a while.
Yeah, you should have already had that plot.
I think I've heard you guys talk about it in the past.
But,
Yeah, this was in briefcases as well.
yeah, I still want the Maggie and Mouse spin-off. That would be adorable.
That one he said he's going to try to do.
Yeah, I'd totally read that just for the cute factor.
I want some chapters from Mouse POV.
So you can get more Uncle Iroh-esque voiceovers.
Oh, I just love the in briefcases, the one that's there for Mouse's POV.
Yeah,
It's a full short story too. It's not just like a one of the smaller short stories.
Yeah, it's
only
whatchamacallit, I think it's Rakugo, where each character sees more of the story than the previous one.
Yeah, you see. No, that's a storytelling method that has a bit different than this.
I'm trying to remember what it was actually called.
Yeah, it's not anything like the Rakugo format. It's but yeah, it's the same story told from different POVs.
Yeah,
but Mouse's POV is the main one, and it's the best one.
It is. Mouse sees the whole story, and it is pretty great.
Isn't Mouse Tibetan?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a Tibetan Mastiff.
So doesn't that mean that the CCP doesn't like him?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mouse is actually Chinese.
Yeah, and notably, the Chinese wizard on the council does not like Mouse and is freaked out by him when she sees him.
She's got good reason to.
I mean, yeah, he is a foo dog or something.
He is a foo dog. He's essentially a canine deity.
Oh, he's a semi-divine guardian deity or something.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And a very good boy.
Yes.
Boy.
But yeah, I think we're done, folks.
I think we're done.
Yes. All right. We will see y'all next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.